Meyer backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Tried to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go as another week, 365 Sports. Hope you enjoyed your, maybe for some of you, Father's Day weekend. And it was enjoyable to watch the U.S. Open and the weather and all of that. We will have Shane Ryan, who's become kind of our go-to golf columnist and writer. He'll join us in the 5 o'clock hour on a remarkable final round. Mother Nature, not to mention a very difficult course. I got this in the mail on Friday. Phil Steele's College Football Magazine. This thing is heavier than any encyclopedia that I ever bought, or maybe a case of them. Unbelievable amount of information. He will join us at some point this summer, but I did get that in the mail. And it reminds me, guys, because of how the internet has changed. He still does this, but he has it online as a digital version. Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine is in something where you get that in the mail. There's also a digital version, but that when you used to see the college magazines start to show up wherever you were on the rack in a way, and how that has changed dramatically just because of technology. I love this magazine. It's got more information than my brain could ever hold, but I do enjoy it. And we might give one of these away on the show this week.
And we'll probably have Phil on eventually.
Yeah, that's what I said sometime this summer. Yeah.
So, you know, he is easy to book and that he has got a calendar, but it's like it's difficult for us to tell anytime when, right? Like you just get in the list. And
Chris Van Dyne is the one that sets him up, and he's also one of his producers of this magazine. But there we are on the cover. Jeremiah Love, the running back at Notre Dame. Arch Manning, of course, a popular picture to have in graphic and face on the cover. C.J. Allen from Georgia, Drew Aller from Penn State, and Jeremiah Smith, the super wide receiver from Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty, I think, interesting but obvious group of guys to have on the cover. I mean, you could probably switch around or add or whatever, subtract one or two in any type of direction, but that's a pretty good consensus of the most interesting players headed into this season, and I do always enjoy getting into the preseason magazine time period and getting to pour through all of the hard work that a lot of those folks have done. Phil Steele being at the top of that list. And is it still warm? Because, man, I get anxiety just watching him tweet about the process to get that magazine done. And almost to the point I have to mute him because I start to feel like I've got a project due when he's talking about how they've got to add another article and there's 12 hours till print time. And it makes me just get stressed out for him. But they always meet the deadline. So they did once again. And those are as fresh can be, those pages, I believe, because they've just printed those things. So I think the adding of a digital just makes a lot of sense in this day and age. And some people probably prefer that at this point. I like having my hands as somebody who just grew up with actual books in my hands. Yep. I do like to have the physical form. There's there's upsides and downsides, though. Like, there's no search feature on a printed magazine. So if you're looking for something in particular, it's nice to have that digital copy to just go like, here's this guy's name, I need to look him up, rather than where do you begin to try to find, a certain exact thing that you're looking for. And also to not have if you don't collect the magazines and you don't want to do that every few years, like dumping of 1,000 magazines, then it's nice to have that digital copy to have both the perfect arrangement there. So yeah, it's cool that those are starting to roll out now.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing that happened when Amanda moved in. She asked me, like, do you collect these magazines? I'm like, no, I have them, and then I finish reading them. And then for a football season, they kind of stay like that. Will stay there because I'll need it. I'll use it for a quick reference point on certain things, especially when I'm doing top fives. Like throughout the year, I kind of like to go back and look and see what people like Phil Steele or Dave Campbell's or, whoever said what they said about it. And then at the end of the year, because again, I'm not a collector, it has no intrinsic value to me at all. So, but then it just kind of sits there. And so now I've become very good at the end of the football season, just dropping it in the trash. But that, I'm going to say at about a 35 magazine dump after the first clean out, I was like, this is really upsetting that I have a 2007 Dave Campbell's here. Well, that is not in good shape either.
I've kept them year by year for many, many years. I have a box in a storage area that has probably 35 of them. And then there's a section, I just happened to find this over the weekend. There's a next to the fireplace, there's a cabinet. And I happened to look at it, and most of it's pictures or whatever. And then all of a sudden, randomly, there was like the 2010 through 2018 Dave Campbell's Texas Football magazines, and there's 2 or 3 up the shelf. But, so it's not the same, but it's still kind of a collectible. And somebody who's been able to get every single Dave Campbell's magazine is still out there. It's a great deal. For example, in the Big 12, Phil Steele, 2025 forecast. We're not going to go over too much here, but who do you think he has or they have as the best? There are 3 teams, the best quarterback room in the Big 12 for right now, entering the season.
Arizona State, Baylor, and who am I thinking about here? Who's it? I'm sure it's obvious.
TCU.
Okay, Josh Hoover.
Josh Hoover. But you actually have Arizona State in a clump. He's done this a lot this year. I noticed there's ties, which I understand. Maybe you just can't separate them. But he has Baylor, TCU, and Tech, the quarterback room, 1, and then Arizona State, K-State, and Utah, and Iowa State all in a clump of 4.
That's interesting. Yeah, we definitely wouldn't agree on that. I think Baron Morton's got all the ingredients to have this massive "See, I told you so" tour this year for anybody who's doubting, his level of play. I think most people just doubt his ability to stay healthy as much as anything else. But I've said this a few times that I think he's the key to unlocking this super season that they've tried to set up as much as a school can possibly set up a super season by investing the way that they have and just putting all the pieces together that they have. And to have a veteran season quarterback coming back is another feather in their cap that should help lead them to that. But to me, that's the big question mark is can Baron Morton be the guy that does put them over the top? Because I do think it ultimately comes back around to him. It's not on all his shoulders, but can he be good when he needs to be in the big moments? And I think he's shown at times that he can be that guy, but it's just so spotty, right? So I think that's the question. It's not a matter of talent or things like that. It's, can he put it all together and be that guy from start to finish? And, if there's a week or two where, Will Hammond has to come in for one reason or another, that's fine. But, I think that's an interesting choice to have him in the top group. I definitely would go a different direction and probably go, Avery Johnson before I went Baron Morton, or maybe even a couple of other guys. I don't know. I haven't really arranged them myself 1 through 16, but okay. I mean, that's his prerogative.
All right. So, for example, Arizona State, their best group of a position, they have a defensive back.
Well, I guess, is he concluding the backups then?
Yeah, the depth, the entire room.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, then Tech with Will Hammond, because he played a lot, then I can see more of that. It dawned on me that that's probably what he was going for there. So, okay, I can see that a lot better. And then Baylor adding Walker White, obviously, and Arizona State, you have great confidence in Dillingham and obviously their terrific starter there. So, okay, I can see more of that if you're including the entire room, not just the starting quarterback.
Yeah, it is a group. And for example, Texas Tech, they have as the number 1 ranked defensive line in the conference, top group of receivers in the conference. Iowa State, best running backs along with Baylor and K-State as a positional room in the conference. I think that's about it. Well, BYU, special teams, and then Kansas State, Utah, Iowa State with the coaches in as far as getting a number 1 grade. So there we are with some of those. I didn't mention all of them, but was curious about that. Now, college baseball, World Series, Arkansas called the Hogs 3-0 lead over the Racers of Murray State. They're in the 8th inning. This is an elimination game, but Murray State right now has work to do. Arkansas up in the top of the 8th. Tonight, UCLA and LSU. Am I right, Garrett? The winner of that game, or the loser of that game, will play the winner of this game.
Yeah, that's right.
And what would then be the next part of the elimination part of a bracket, 2 different brackets as they move on. All right, now, Cal, not a part of the Pac-12. We know about what happened there. Now, Jim Knowlton announced that he's retiring after many years at Cal. This kind of has 2 or 3 prongs of a story, because what this also means for Cal is that Ron Rivera's power becomes even more so, because Rich Lyons, the chancellor, takes over to become for now the vision of the athletic department, but Justin Wilcox, the head coach, will now even more so go directly to Ron Rivera, who, of course, hired as their general manager.
Which is the exact same dynamic. They're rivals from across town.
Stanford with Andrew
Cardinal with Andrew Luck.
Yep.
And currently Frank Reich, but that's only for this year. We'll have, and I think this is the model you'll see more and more of. It'll be a slow burn, right? That there'll be more. The GM is in charge of the coach, like. Sometimes like it's the other way around. For example, Kirby Smart does not answer to his GM. His GM answers to Kirby Smart. And that's sometimes the way it works in professional sports too. In professional football, sometimes the coach is a little bit more powerful than the GM, but it's not necessarily like an answer to type thing. It's different. But I think you'll see this model more and more as recruiting becomes more talent acquisition as far as contracts go, and things like that, so that you're going to have an administrative, arm of recruiting that wasn't necessary in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much of an opinion on the front office, if you will, as that becomes more the norm. But I know that this is something Cal fans wanted, and they're rejoicing, and they're thrilled that this is finally happening. It's been long awaited that he would move out of the way, be gone, and so now they've got their wish. And yeah, those who were already starting to grab some of the power will now have even more, but I think that's the direction that fans want, and this is welcome news to them. So, yeah, that's the big reaction that I've taken away is just how thrilled Cal fans seem to be. So it seems like a great day for them, and maybe a day where you point back to down the line and you say, this was one of the things that helped lead us to go in this direction even higher than we had previously. So, yeah, it seems like that's the resounding response is good riddance or, good luck to you, but we're not going to miss you type of thing.
I talked to John Wilner, texted him back and forth to see if he had time to come on today to discuss this, but he also was working on a few other things, and maybe at some point midweek or so, he'll be able to come on and discuss this a little bit further. And then Ross Dellinger. I don't know if anybody cranks out more information than he does, and he's also really good about if there is a story that perhaps somebody else is reporting that he's already written about it in a way to kind of reflect back on it. He's a grinder. The guy works his guts out. And here are some notes about the college football playoff, and you guys tell me or interrupt me when you want. Is this in reference, I guess, to what was going on when the Big Ten and SEC were discussing automatic qualifiers, et cetera? Sankey was talking about strength of schedule and metrics, et cetera. An update today. This is from Mitch Clark. Annual meetings coming up in Asheville. The presentation will focus on adjustments to the strength of schedule metric used by the selection committee. Mac Rose joins us tomorrow. And all I've seen in the last 3 to 5 or 6 months since the playoff championship is how the the college football playoff committee is losing more and more clout, what it looks like to me. So we'll talk to Mac about that when he joins us tomorrow.
As well, it should. I mean, like, look, I think our collective opinion is pretty similar here. I think it's maybe nuance that maybe separates it, but we kind of thought that it should be somewhere in the middle of a committee and some really strong metric numbers. I've mentioned the way that they select hockey as a framework several times over the show, but what I only worry about is what kind of strength of schedule metrics did they use, and if it starts any year other than the one that we're in, it's not accurate.
Yeah, or using any kind of preseason poll, because preseason polls are what might happen or what people project to happen, instead of like they do with the standings, Craig, wait till there's 6 or 7 games on the table before they release their standings.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I always have fond memories of that 1 week that we didn't have to hear about the playoff. Because, man, it was a beautiful week when we didn't have to talk about these folks trying to get their heads wrapped around what this playoff's going to look like. Last week was incredible. But no, I think they're going to kill us off as far as interest in the playoff. With what
was that? Because Paul was out for a couple of days and we didn't talk legal stuff because we didn't understand.
No, it's because they weren't all peacocking on their respective platforms,
right.
trying to tell us what their angle was. But I mean, they're going to kill interest in the playoff just by talking about it to death. If it keeps going this route. But I mean, I'm all for a combination. As I've said before, I don't trust humans entirely. I think there is a way to allow computers to tell the tale with the metrics, but I'm with Paul and everyone else who's already suggested the same, that it depends on what those metrics are. Like, are we using preseason polls, which are biased? They are absolutely biased. And what are they based on? They're based on freaking recruiting rankings, which, that's an exact science, right? No, the hell it's not. It's very much an inexact science a lot of times. So, yeah, I mean, anything that can take some of that pre-baking in out of the equation would be fine with me. I don't know how you go about doing that because I'm just math stupid. So that will be the devil in the details that make this something that I'm in favor of or something I have an issue with. But I'm all for a combination. I don't see why there should be any pushback really on that, to have as much of a wide scope as you possibly can with humans and computers. But yeah, the computers are also going to spit out what you've given it. So what are you feeding it, right? And if you're feeding it a bunch of biased, metrics, then that's going to be a problem. So that'll be, again, the important part of the information that eventually we receive. But keep getting talks going and figure this thing out so we can all move along and know what we're expecting in the future.
All right, well, there's some more from this. Clark, again, spending the last several weeks trying to create data points to be used in the playoff selection, heavily weighted on the team's strength of schedule, even using outside mathematicians, and data analysts to assist in the endeavor. Adjustments are seen as a step in maintaining the selection committee's role, keeping their role important in a playoff that incorporates a big number of at-large spots, such as 16 teams, 5 automatic qualifiers, 11 at-large formats. Here we go. SEC officials have publicly encouraged such a change to the selection criteria. There was the college football expansion that may hinge on selection committee criteria. SEC's move towards an automatic qualifier-heavy format in the Big 12 as well. So this is something where they're listening. But again, I'm not against the SEC or anybody wanting 5 at-large and 11, automatic and 11 at-large. I think that's the best way to go, too.
And look, I think you do have to, feed some, fish to the SEC seal in the tank. I mean, they're loud. I mean, and they've earned a lot of that loudness, but you can't just say, yeah, we'll take your metric.
Some of them have earned that loudness.
Yeah, precisely.
Less than half of them have earned that loudness, actually.
So, less than half of them have earned that. But if you're going to tell me that 2007 is part of your metric, or 2022 is part of your metric, or any of that is, then GFY, I don't want that. The strength of schedule has to be about the present, not the past, the present season. And if you do that, then there we go.
Here's the thing. Just because the SEC or the Big Ten have ideas doesn't mean all of them are evil. We don't trust it as much. However, at the same time, when you started to say with the SEC, we never once mentioned the Big Ten. What the SEC wants or what the SEC's there's one tweet that I
think the difference. I think the difference is that the SEC is just so much more vocal and out front, and obviously I pointed that out as well. And I think that we look at them differently because they're a league that all acts like they're on the same par. Whereas with the Big Ten, you kind of know it's a handful of schools, right? Like you kind of know who's pulling the strings there. It's Ohio State, it's Michigan, it's some of the newcomers. Whereas with the SEC, it's more of like Vanderbilt gets credit, more than anybody else would in a similar circumstance because of that affiliation. It's like, is that deserved or not? And most people would tell you that are unbiased. No, it's not. And so I think that's where some of the pushback there comes from. But I'm with you. I get really tired, actually, of the anti-SEC angle. It's valid in some cases, but it's also, I think, so widely overused that it loses any impact and just sounds like you're a hater. So
no, it does.
I think there needs to be a balancing act there. But I'm a little bit leery when all of a sudden they are like, oh yeah, this is a great idea, because I don't trust them. I don't trust Greg Sankey to do anything that's not just the best for them and them alone. And so that makes me go, oh, S, did you just step in a pile of S and walk right into their spider web that he had laid out there for you? And you know what? Based on his history, you probably did. I mean, I think I've brought that up a couple of times of like, this whole thing is not just on a whim. They've been planning this out. This is Mr. Art of War. Like, it just feels like every step that's taken was somehow predetermined or pre-planned. And that's a weird feeling to have if you're these people in charge trying to make the best decisions for your conference of, are you doing ultimately what's best for them, even if that's not what
there are people within his own conference that don't agree.
Yeah, it's just that they work things very well. He's a very smart guy. Everything eventually falls their way. I think that, again, the metrics will be very important, because if you're using preseason polls when there's like 9 teams that are just automatically in there from that league, for example, then I don't think that should have a heavy bearing. It's a preseason ranking, but again, the devil will be in the details there.
The MOU, by the way, is a memorandum of understanding that was signed last spring between those two conferences, hold authority over the future format. We know that. We've discussed that. And, of course, that could end expansion after this 2025 season moves to perhaps the 16 teams into the future.
The only thing I ever take issue with and it's not with Ross or anything, but with the writing, it's always like doomsday. It's always like, if this doesn't happen, then everything could fall apart. And I just feel like it doesn't have to always feel so weighty. It doesn't have to always feel like everything's like this. If this doesn't get done, then the entire system will fall to dust. Like, it's always big and ominous. And I understand the point of driving it home that way, but I also think that some of that's like trying to it's like drive you with fear to the people that need to read that a certain way get pushed in the direction of getting this thing done, kind of a thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, there was a response.
You better do this, or all hell breaks loose.
There was a response to all of these tweets earlier today. Is like Armageddon.
It's always Armageddon.
Yeah.
But I think the answer is, and we heard it from someone last week. Forgive me, I've had a few palomas at the pool since then, but here's the consequence. If the SEC and Big Ten don't agree this year on a format, and the SEC going to 9 games and all of that, do you know what happens? We probably just do the 12-team playoff until they do.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's going to happen.
But you know what? Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Let's do it.
It's kind of like, hey, it's not like if you don't board up the windows, the hurricane's going to rip your house up. It's like, hey, a window's open, and if you don't close it, it's raining. It might get a little wet in the bathroom, so you may want to shut that. That's the worst. It's not a hurricane. It's just, nah.
I think that the combination and some of this also allowed our growth to occur when we started 5 years ago. The conference realignment was a bang. Now, there had been some before with Missouri and A&M and Colorado, Nebraska, Arkansas, but I mean, the Texas OU, and then really for almost 2.5, 3 years, that was weekly. whether or not the stuff that was being reported or not, it was some speculation, some of it legitimate. And there's a little bit of that we're going to discuss in a minute here on this show. Then you had the NIL. Then you had the House settlement that seems like it's still not done. It's one thing after another. What?
You always bring up how crazy it is. It's always just, I can't wait for it to settle down. It's like, okay, so all the
I honestly, you get worn out by the legal aspect of it. I get worn out by the fact, can we just go play football? That's kind of where I am.
Well, they are in 2 months.
Yeah.
I mean,
but even then,
there's an off season. You have other stuff that gets done, and that's when you negotiate the playoff and when you have all these other things that happen. I mean, I get you, but you're reacting to it still. It's like that's the way it's been for 5 years. So that's the way it is.
There has been more in college athletics because of the NCAA's stubbornness and arrogance in the last 4.5, 5 years than there was in the first 100 and some years of NCAA and college athletics. Part of that is change, and part of that is law, and part of that is just the fact it's better for everybody perhaps involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, that's the result of 100 years of doing things a way that you could get away with, and then all of a sudden people who do have power over you telling you this is illegal and that's illegal and that can't be done that way. And you know what it results in when you procrastinate. If you had a bunch of issues with your house and you don't take care of any of them and you just hope just hope it all stays together. But meanwhile, you're just piling up money in your account, but you never fix anything. And all of a sudden, everything blows to hell. Pipes start bursting. There's a hole in the roof.
It sounds like your house, Paul.
Then that's what you put it all off. And all of a sudden, everything's falling apart at once. So I just think that's the norm now. Like it shouldn't be surprising. It can be exhausting, of course, but I mean that's what it is, and that's what was created when you basically put things to the side and hope they never come back to get you for decades on decades on decades. So yeah, it's a lot to try and figure out, and it's not going to be taken care of in 1 or 2 years, and we're still looking at a few more years where it's going to be like this, and it's going to drive some people away. And some people are going to stick around but be lesser fans than they were. And some people might think this is the coolest thing they've ever seen when it's all said and done. But you can't just go from 0 to 100. You got to, take care of a lot of different things along the way. So, yeah, when we get into the lawsuit talk, my eyes glaze over. But I also realize it's part of why we're here. So it's to be expected.
All right. So last week, I remember I'm the one that brought up Coastal Carolina. And I used their mascot name. Their head coach, Kevin Snall, remember, he was the one that went after, the Florida coach for behavior back during one of the rounds. Here is, and by the way, they are really good. They've won a national title. There are many teams around the country that wish they had Coastal Carolina's type of history. 3-0 Arkansas. Right now, they're in the top of the ninth, and and Murray State doesn't have a hit in that game, by the way. There's a possible no going on, and I just probably jinxed it.
Look, my friends already jinxed the perfect game by saying we're watching it, but didn't say anything. And then he hit a guy. But, look, it's
no hitter.
It's a no hitter.
Top of the ninth, Arkansas trying to move into what would be another game at least on their way to try to win a national title.
I feel truly bad for Murray State because their starting pitcher was dealing.
Yeah, no, he was.
He was. Holds Arkansas to 3 runs.
So here is Kevin Snall, the head coach at Coastal Carolina. Damn it. This is how you say our mascot's name.
Everybody say it with me. Chanticleers. Chanticleers. Not Chanticleer. Chanticleers.
I thought it was like Chantlers or something like that initially. But like a long time ago when I first heard of them. But they are really good. The Chanticleers. I like Kevin Snall. He's got a hell of a baseball team.
It's a very fancy bird.
Kind of like that Paloma.
Yeah.
I never
Paloma
had a
means
Paloma.
dove. Yeah,
I never had.
It's like seltzer and gin and
that's such a
and tequila and grapefruit. It's very
cool, snotty ass drink.
Well,
right
I
there.
mean, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
that was what I was going for.
Chanticleers.
Well, I'm a pronunciation guy, so I think I've said Chanticleers. So yeah, but I'm also from East Texas, so that's part of my accent. But yeah, Chanticleers. Okay,
or fancy it's a fancy rooster. I'm sorry. Which is a bird.
Chanticleers is
yes, the very fancy rooster.
Let me tell you something. Who was the football coach they had that we had on the show? Didn't we have him on?
Jamie Chadwell.
Yeah, no. We've had some Coastal Carolina coverage. I like what they've done, and that school is really Robert Thornton, who's a big West Virginia fan who lives in Myrtle Beach sent me another email, and usually it's about West Virginia, good or bad or whatever, but he was talking about Chanticleer's Coastal Carolina is like right around the corner from where he lives.
I told Craig while you were gone that they did invite us to do a show there on the beach in South Carolina. So, I mean, that's an invitation I don't think we should turn down.
No.
I think we need to do that.
No.
And Smokey.
I want to go to Provo and not just to hit. We need to go do that and experience a night game up there on a Saturday night one time. But, the Chanticleers. I did not know of a Paloma cocktail until you brought it up. 2 ounces of tequila, fresh grapefruit juice, sparkling water, as you mentioned, or grapefruit soda, fresh lime, agave nectar, or simple syrup, coarse sea salt for the rim of the glasses, kind of like a little bit of a version of a margarita with the salt on the rim.
Special shout out to my man Sebastian, 4 Seasons Houston, who hooked me up, got him for me.
There you go.
Subscribed to the show. He's already a fan. So
there you go. All right, is that it, Garrett?
Yep.
We will have a golf writer on the U.S. Open. Listen, there's a lot of majors. The guys win by 3 strokes or 5 strokes, whatever. But yesterday, the Mother Nature and all of that, and J.J. Spaun coming back from a terrible front 9. We'll have our good buddy Shane Ryan from Golf Digest join us today in the 5 o'clock hour. Also, Raphael Barlo. He's an NBA draft analyst. He'll join us today on the draft that's coming up just in less than 2 weeks. We'll also hear from Mitch Light from the College World Series from theathletic.com and Paul's Top 5, and Andrew Valade's already put up one of the polls that is up and running inside of this chat room. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. As you get into your 40s, sometimes it could be a little bit earlier than that. Sometimes it may never happen. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. And that could be you're not locked in. You're not locked in. Your energy is down. Yeah, it could be also something that is a huge deal, your sex drive or ED, issues like that. But it could be as simple as you just don't have the oomph factor. And maybe that's because you're not very active. Maybe because you eat bad stuff. It also could mean you could be active and have a great diet, and you even might work out and you still feel that way. Something's weird, and it could be your testosterone level. Dr. Petty set him up or set you up. Contact him at pettycliniclowt.com and tell him I sent you. They will set you up to get your blood work. They will get the results, look at the testosterone level, and be in touch with you one way or the other to either boost it or it's fine at pettycliniclowt.com.
Employee Pricing Plus is back at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals are insane. Get a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab. Your choice. 1.9 for 72 months, or $12,000 off and 3.9 for 72 months, or a flat-out $16,000 off MSRP. Wow! Ford, GM, or Toyota owner? Take $1,500 more off only at Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture, or what you choose to grow. At Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Last call for Employee Pricing Plus at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a beast of a truck with a Ram 1-ton 4x4 Cummins diesel for just $52,995. Or go off-road with the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon and save $15,000 off MSRP. Only 2 left. Prefer an SUV? Get a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee for $10,000 off MSRP. Even better, a 2025 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 for just $26,700. Visit Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, so earlier today, there were some stories about the possibility, and this has been there. It's been kind of in the atmosphere about Texas State and the possibility of one day they might be a part of the Pac-12. John Wilner, again, traded some text messages with him. The Pac-12 close to both a media deal and expansion decision. Here's our look at the value that Texas State would bring. And this, of course, is part of what he does with the San Jose Mercury News. It's about chips for 2030, not dollars for 2025 from March. And this was a story. Pete Thamel had a part of this in the ESPN. The coverage of the story was college realignment intel, Texas State cryptic post, and the Pac-12's next move. Kelly Damphus, from the president of Texas State, had put out a picture of 2 beavers, like in a creek or a river or whatever, and everyone kind of went, oh, my God, what is she trying to insinuate? But there is no doubt that Texas State might be on deck when it comes to the possibility of the Pac-12 adding what they do need in one more team, which also leads to the conversation, well, why would UNLV not be a part of that? And let's make sure we'll push that to the corner for right now. But Texas State, Paul and Craig, G.J. Kinney told me he was walking around with recruits throughout the weekend, and a lot of people asking him about, are you guys going to join the Pac-12? And he really couldn't answer them. We invited the AD at Texas State on the show, Coriel, and I was told late last week that he wasn't available. It was not a good time. And you wonder if it's because there's really not much he can say.
Yeah, probably not. I think it would be a good move for the Pac-12. I don't know if it's a great move for Texas State or not. I mean, I think it'd be a good move. I mean, look, the Sun Belt's a good league though. So as far as G5 leagues go, it's a fun league to watch. It's very cool. So we'd see, but yeah, I think Texas State is the logical one. I think UNLV needs to be something in their future because they're going to want more than 8 teams to play football. They're going to get to it probably at least 12 so that their strength of schedule metric can maybe somehow get on a higher level than with the other compared to the other G5s. I mean, I don't think that there's going to be any kind of thought that in the next 5 years that all of a sudden these schools are all going to jump up and be a power conference again, but they could be a very, very good group of 5 conference. And Texas State, I think, is a school on the way up, and it's in Texas. There's lots of recruits. So why would you not want to have that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different parts to this, the fallout from it, the trickle-up effect of it as well. And we saw that in the story, but on one of those graphics as well. Can get to that in just a second. But the Texas State part first, I mean, that's been the big rumor. That's remained the rumor. That's been the one team that's seemingly remained engaged this entire time, unlike a Memphis, which is mentioned in the article. And I know I don't know so much anymore, but back when the Big 12 was initially expanding as an act of survival post-Texas and Oklahoma, Memphis was one of those oft-mentioned teams. And obviously they went a different direction with Houston and BYU and Cincinnati and UCF. But Memphis was, along with Boise State, in that group of teams that were apparently being looked at and talked to, and it didn't work out. And I know it was weird because Memphis people chalk that up to like, well, I've heard there was never anything there. Do you remember that? There was always like, there was never any smoke. It's like, then how do they get mentioned in literally every article about expansion? There's maybe not smoke in that it's happening, but there's smoke in that clearly they are looking to make the move at some point or another, right? And so they were mentioned here again, but as a team who doesn't really have probably any realistic power options for another few years. And so in the meantime, they are looking at the possibility of a split, I guess, affiliation with, basketball being a part of the Pac-12 and football,
things going to the Big East,
and then having other sports play in a different league. So it remains to be seen on how that will work out for the Memphis Tigers overall. But that is a team that they do at least give credence to the fact that it's a good school that's definitely trying to find its way up, and they're just kind of in a weird spot where it's not exactly what they want, and there's other routes that they continue to go. So they got mentioned there. Tulane, just no interest apparently. And then you had, a couple of others that got talked about for the Pac-12, like Rice. But I never really saw the power behind that move. So Texas State is where you eventually find yourself throughout all these various rumors. And they've been a constant, and I think they've clearly shown, whether just straightforward or by subtweeting or whatever, that they are definitely interested, and it appears all signs pointing to them being a new member of the Pac-12. It's just a matter of it probably needing to happen in the next couple of weeks to avoid that July 1st deadline, and it would be a bigger amount of money they would have to pay. So I think you're going to see some action on that in the next couple of weeks. We're probably going to see Texas State announced as the newest member of the Pac-12. That would give them their 8 football schools. That would meet that threshold that they need. And then you have Gonzaga as the 9th in the basketball-only school. And I don't know if there would be anything on top of that. But, yeah, I think it's a great move for the Bobcats. I think they're a massive school with a lot of potential. They're in a cool area, and they seem to be interested in investing. And so I think that it's not going to turn a lot of heads here in Texas because they're probably, 8th? Like if you're doing a line of the power order of schools in the state of Texas, but it's still the state of Texas, and that's what the Pac-12 wants. They want that market.
Huge growth there.
They want a big, fun school like Texas State, and I just think the relationship makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, I think we're going to see Texas State in the Pac-12 in the very near future.
John Wilner said, why would it not be UNLV? He said, UNLV is the move if you want to do it for 2025. Texas State makes the decision or makes it sense for 2030 for when – now, they're going to have a media rights deal. We've heard about this, that it might be as early as June 30th, and Wilner has discussed that before. The Pac-12 should act accordingly. Strategic decisions in the spring of 2025 must be made with the fall of 2030 in mind, with the building the strongest, most valuable football product possible. And that, in his opinion, would be the Bobcats in San Marcos, Texas, at Texas State.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they meet that criteria that he lays out, or that desire that he lays out there. I don't like pinning too much on the current head coach because I don't think that current head coach is going to be there to see this all out, but he may be for a couple of years. I definitely think Texas State is not the last stop for G.J. Kinney in the near future. So when I see the reports of they've got a great young head coach, and it's he really shouldn't factor in this decision though, because this is a long-term decision. And I don't know, his long-term status there ultimately. But, UNLV is a school that would make a lot of sense geographically. I've said when we've talked about the new Pac that no, it's not a power conference by that definition. And no matter who they add, they won't be back in that grouping, but they can be the best of the rest. And I think that before the Texas State potential addition, that they had their Western version of the Sun Belt with a lot of schools geographically connected and some already built-in, baked-in rivalries, and that could make it a lot of fun. Now, Texas State geographically doesn't make a lot of sense, but it does add a massive market and a massive state, and they were kind of out on an island going the eastern way. So for Texas State, it's just going a different direction. And I think that it kind of breaks up that fun geography, but in a way that makes sense that it's not a dumb move.
They're in between Austin and San Antonio, which has 4.5 million people in that corridor. And so that's one of the things that's grown. It used to be out in the country. I know, because I used to go up to San Marcos or whatever when I was a high school kid in San Antonio my senior year. Now, one of the questions that I did talk to GJ a little bit, one of the things if you're Texas State, and they're smart. Kelly Dampus, by the way, Craig, you said I called her her. It's a guy. I don't know if I did that or not, but it doesn't mean
thought you did.
Is that don't be played. Make sure that this is all legitimate. Don't be played because they're using you as a pawn. That is one thing that Texas State has to make sure they do their due diligence. And it appears as if they are the play. The Pac-12 is more than just using them, not using them at all as a pawn, that they want Texas State to be a part of the conference.
Seeing it, you need a team to get you to 8, using somebody as a pawn to get to somebody else when you're the one who really needs somebody as well.
I think the Pac-12 doesn't need to F around.
They don't need to do that. That's not something they should do. They shouldn't get smarmy about that at all. They need to just make a deal. And look, I know that they need to get to 1, but this is not going to just stop with them eventually, because they'll try, again, 8 football teams is good, and it's the bare minimum that they'll need, but they're going to want to be at a higher number at some point.
Central time zone, again, a sprawling school, a huge area. And by the way, Arkansas did shut out Murray State 3-0.
No-hitter was complete.
Yeah.
So,
all right, anything else to add on to that?
Yeah, I think there's I don't know what the Pac-12 would be cooking up. I mean, I think that it's smart on GJ and Texas State's part to just be a little bit leery and not take everything at face value, but it would be a PR nightmare to try to screw over Texas State, and I don't know who you'd possibly be setting them up to dupe them for to go get.
No, I mentioned that there were thoughts that they still would rather have UNLV and that Texas State would be a fallback. No, they want Texas State. UNLV would be better maybe today, but the Texas State's better for the Pac-12 as they move into the future.
Yeah, and Texas State is gung-ho about it. UNLV's already made their decision. I know that didn't stop talk about, maybe that could change, but they've got a lot to consider when it comes to the financials right now at UNLV. For the people who always bring up, well, why not UNLV? Or why isn't UNLV making bigger moves? Why did they jump to the Big 12? Why didn't they jump to the Pac-12? I think there's a lot of financial considerations that are involved with that they need to figure out and maybe be in a better position to make that type of a move, including their Mountain West, any potential exit fee. But I know that's also still part of this, is that's being worked out. That lawsuit's ongoing. We still don't know the end result of that at this point. So that's certainly thrown some curveballs here and there and made it not an exactly clean process. But yeah, I can see where UNLV would be a nice splash right away, but I do think long-term Texas State's a great play, expands the footprint, adds a massive state to the folder, and a fun road trip and all that goes with that. I did find, though, the trickle-down effect. Garrett had a graphic up that kind of explained it, but what you'd be looking at in terms of the trickle-up effect would be Texas State joins the Pac-12, so then according to Pete Thamel's article, Louisiana Tech would be your favorite to then go take their spot in the Sun Belt. Mm-hmm. And if not them, then Western Kentucky, another team that was mentioned, but La Tech, the favorite to be that potential replacement. They did talk about Memphis, and Memphis is again kind of in a weird wait and see where they're still hoping for that power invite to come here in the coming years, but there could possibly be sort of a split affiliation down the line. That's something that was mentioned as a possibility. I'm not sure exactly what that would look like, but Memphis still figuring some things out, it appears, although their long-term goal remains the same as it has been for a while now, get to a bigger league in the Power Four. And then as far as if La Tech or Western Kentucky was not mentioned on here, but it is the CUSA Ripple. What they mentioned there was if La Tech or Western Kentucky left, then Tarleton State would probably be the call for CUSA to bring them
USA,
up
yep.
and have Tarleton State, who, I mean, that's Texas, but you talk about a school, it's kind of gone 0 to 60 in conference realignment moves over the last few years. I mean, that is a school that probably produces more Texas high school football coaches than anybody. Definitely per capita. Would you agree with that?
Stephen F. Austin and Tarleton State.
Yeah, I mean, those would be the two. So
Absolutely.
they love their football, and they've clearly, with their leadership, gone all in on trying to take them to new heights. And you've seen the various moves they've made. And so, yeah, that could be the next one. The trickle up would be Tarleton State jumping up to Conference USA. But the other part of this I did find interesting, and this was I don't know, typical Pack as far as recent typical Pack, but they did mention the money figures and that being involved of what the TV deal would look like. And I just couldn't help but kind of chuckle. No disrespect to the fans out there, but just the way things happened a couple of years ago, that there was like a $10 million per school figure, I guess, with the bandied about TV deal that they were expecting. Well, guess what? They're not going to probably get to that $10 million. The consultants were wrong again and probably inflated that, and it's going to be a little bit less than that. It'll still be more than Texas State was making beforehand. So to them, it's still good. But I just couldn't help but snicker a little bit when it's like, oh, the TV consultants in the Pac-12 overinflated their value again. Oh, I can't imagine that. Where have we seen that before?
Didn't they say $40 million?
Yeah, it was $40 million.
Yeah.
So we've gone down $30 million in 2 years' time. And I found that humorous.
No. Let's remember that part of the reason they kept going back to the drawing board is that they had some faulty research that was pushed by a couple of school presidents that said it was $50 million a year that they should be getting. And they went to Fox and ESPN and they're like, okay, I know that you think you should, I get this is how this works, negotiation. You say 50 and then we say 38 and, and then we keep moving on in the middle. And the Pac-12 kept going 50. Yeah. And they would be like, no. And they're like, 50. And they're like, okay, this is not how negotiation works.
No, it's like we're going to offer you 40. How about 50? How about 35? How about 50? How about 30? How about 50? How about 25? That's how that went.
That's literally how it seemed like it went.
We have a professor that did something here that says it should be worth 50. Well, we have a bank that says you're only getting 30.
Yeah.
So, now, you and the bank and the professor can argue all they want, but,
By the way, the per school, per year, per team, whatever you want to say when it comes to the payouts. Right now, Conference USA somewhere in that $2-3 million a year. The American Athletic Conference is at about $5 million a year. The Mountain West, the new deal, is close to $8 to $10 million a year. And the Pac-12, of course, would be somewhere in that same neighborhood. Things change because the Mountain West, half of that, or 6 or 7 teams are headed to join Oregon State and Washington State.
Yeah, we're going to see a bunch of new TV deals here in the coming years. A bunch of them getting signed in the last couple of years, and they'll all be pretty much in line to go to 2030. The Pac we've been waiting on for the longest. I can only imagine how the people actually super invested in what that number will look like. Like an Oregon State fan, for example, can only imagine how much their patience is running out, but it does appear like there's some movement. It does appear like they'll be able to meet that threshold with an 8th football team, and they will, have that behind them. And then that TV deal should be out there. According to reports, soon, but we've also been there, done that before. Soon can be like 6 months or a year in the Pac-12, but that all seems to be moving forward. And I want to mention one other part about Memphis, just because I want to be accurate and properly inform people. Not only are they looking for a bigger prize ultimately, we know they've tried to go to the Big 12, the ACC even, but Thamel did mention in the article that the big hiccup for Memphis, or one of them, is the exit fee. And I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but with the American, if they were to leave prior to the 27-month mark, talking about a $25 million buyout.
Yeah.
And the Pac apparently offered them $2.5 million. So we'll give you, hey, that's better than nothing. But that means you're on the hook for 22 and change.
That's how you go in debt.
Yeah. So I don't think that that's something they're interested in. So that's also playing into Memphis not being all gung-ho about that. But there is the possibility they could do some sort of other special type of arrangement.
Texas State could open up yet another school in Texas to be a part of the Pac-12, which would also then cut down some of the travel time. Would also give you 2 schools in the Central Time Zone, which is something we're normally used to. We're used to like going East Coast, Central, and Mountain, and then West Pacific, but they're coming the other direction. So there's a chance. You got to give Tarleton State a lot of credit. Steve Urias and that group, among others, have done an incredible job of putting themselves in position if, in fact, that time comes, whether it's Pac-12 or somewhere else, or the Conference USA, as Craig remembered. I'd forgotten, other than we know the Big Ten and the SEC are like the 800-pound gorillas when it comes to TV revenue. The ACC is, I think, slightly bigger, more than the Big 12, but I'd forgotten the huge drop-off from whatever it is, 33 million, down to what might be 2, 3, 5, or 10 million a year.
Well, that was jarring to see, what the PAC was looking at as a $50 million request or expectation a few years ago, and they're looking at probably like somewhere around 10. But again, you've lost a bunch of brands. Things are drastically different since then. I'm glad they're able to keep the league together, even though I know for some it's in name only. But you do have 2 members who have hung around, and so I'm happy for Oregon State and Washington State fans that this is all kind of getting finished and across the finish line, so they can move on from just what's the PAC going to look like, what's the TV deal going to look like, who are the schools that are going to be involved. It's still not what you wanted ultimately, but it's better than, I guess, other alternatives that could have seen you not a part of any PAC and you're going to join the Mountain West, which we know that they did not want to do. So, it's been a lot of buildup for this, and so it looks like with July 1st looming, we should be seeing some news unless people just have an affinity for burning money, and it is college athletics, so that would be entirely out of the question.
Hey, by the way, there's some of you, thank you, those CFB Plus and Mike out of Ohio mentioning why would they not be interested in San Jose State, a good TV market, or Sacramento State, which kind of brings me back to the summers of 21, 22, 23, and parts of 24. But that's where we are with that story. Wanted to give it a lot because that's been percolating, not official yet, but that might start popping here in the next few days.
I don't know the specific details about San Jose State, like down to the nitty gritty as if I went there or something like that, but they pledged to the Mountain West.
Yes.
I think, much like other situation, it could be a matter of the buyout and finances and the fact that until you see a TV deal from the PAC, how much more are they making than you're already making? And if you're also then going and paying a buyout and doing all these things to move conferences and everything that comes with that, is it financially smart to make that move?
Here's one of the things that
and are they desired by the PAC too? Just because they're in that area doesn't mean that they're going to be additive to what the PAC. They're certainly not as additive as Texas State is.
One of the things that was brought up in some of the wordage, verbiage, whatever you want to say, after the House settlement and when some of the meetings occurred, wasn't there a discussion about how the Pac-12 was considered a part of the power conferences? Wasn't there some language?
Teresa Gold said something about them still being a part of that. But I mean, again, I think
she can say that. But
at the time, I mean, I think I was as polite as I could be about that comment because I understand where it's coming from. She's the commissioner of her conference. She's got to tout her conference. They are not comparable to the Big 12 or the ACC. And I don't know if she said the ACC as well, but I definitely think she tried to draw a parallel to the Big 12. That's just simply not true.
No.
It's just not. But best of the rest, yes, they have a great opportunity to be that with schools like Boise State leading the way. They can be a really fun league. Geographically makes a ton of sense, even though Texas State's kind of on an island, but they were going to be on an island just on the other side of the country anyway, so this makes a lot of sense for them. And I think adding some Texas flavor and a fun road trip to, the mix for those West Coast schools or Western State schools is a nice little change of pace as well. So, I think there's a lot to like about it. I don't think you're getting your power label back, unfortunately, but I do think they're making the best of the situation that they can. And so, you're gonna tout and promote it a certain way, but no, that was not true.
One of the comments, I think there's some confusion in regard to the A5 status of the PAC. There is a technical, and then there's reality in terms of the power status.
Yeah.
Now, let me see. We got at 4:25, we'll have an NBA draft and just an NBA analyst that will discuss the draft with VJ Edgecombe, and, of course, Trey Johnson at Texas, among some others, and what he sees as we are less than 2 weeks away from the NBA draft. Wanted to say congratulations to Nathaniel Ezekiel. He has dominated track and field this year. He won the NCAA championship. A lot of different athletes did, team titles, etc., but he was phenomenal from start to finish and blew away the field to win the 400 meters. Great young man, wins the NCAA championship with that track and field meet in Eugene, Oregon over the weekend. When we come back, more to get to with college football, a little bit more from the Phil Steele magazine that we'll bring up. Thank you for your time as always. The chat room is fired away. Kind of nice, a little bit of a pick-me-up to discuss realignment in a way with what might be happening with Texas State, the Pac-12, and in college football. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco. They had themselves a great Father's Day. Everything you're going to want if you're a father. Great meals, also time to, of course, celebrate with what's going on with the family. They've now been through, if you think about it, in fact, here, we're so grateful to have spent the incredible Father's Day with our amazing members. Thank you to everybody. This was on their Facebook page. We gave away awesome raffle prizes, created unforgettable memories. Huge shout out to our fantastic community partners, Make It Lit Waco and Brotherwell Brewing for helping make the day extra special. The Baylor Club, where you can celebrate anything from a wedding, rehearsal dinner, a banquet, any kind of an honors or graduation, all of that, or just you and maybe a nice private party that you want to put together for your business and or family and friends. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium. Tremendous food. The amenities are great. Off I-35 in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
I think we're going to start a segment that's going to be Get Off My Lawn. I have clumps of these things build up in my repertoire. I was listening to a podcast, and someone was talking about one of the pet peeves that they have. Have you guys ever, you're on the highway, you're driving long distance, it could be to Dallas or it could be on a vacation to maybe Destin, and you want to stop and get gas, you need to pee, or you're hungry. Do you know of anybody that refuses that they will not cross over or under the highway to go to the other side if there are 8 or 10 places for you to go and you wait till the next exit?
Yeah.
It might be 20 miles down the road.
Yeah, I've been like, just go over there. Like when you're trapped, when you're not driving. Look, when I'm driving, if it's, especially, like, hey, if I've got to pee, I'll drive 2 miles off the highway because I know where the highway is, if that's where the bathroom is, And
how many times have you waited and next thing you know,
Well, I learned that lesson at a young age. I was driving back to Waco from Tallahassee and thought, man, that gas station looks really dumpy. I bet there's another one here. And then I was peeing on the side of the road in the middle of a swamp in Louisiana, and probably not the best thing because it wasn't like I wasn't going to make it anywhere else. I hit that bridge. That really long bridge.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that was.
What is that bridge?
Yeah,
I-10, I think it is.
Yeah, it's on I-10, and I hit that bridge, and then like right as I got off of it, before I could see some places in the distance. I'm like, I'm not going to make it there. I'm going to pee in my car, so I had to pull off and pee by my car so that nobody knew what I was doing.
Was it a swamp? Or did it become a swamp?
It got swampier. Yeah, I'm sure.
Craig, do you have that? Yeah. Do you have that? Well, I'll just wait till you don't want to. Like, there's something about a barrier about taking a left underneath the highway to go an extra 2 minutes to go to a convenience store, or even if it's a fast food place on the other side.
I have bad news for you. I think Get Off My Lawn's been taken by tons of other grumpy old men over the last few years.
I was kidding about
a different
that.
name for it. I think Dan Dockich has something like that. Or
shit, I don't want to do anything he's doing. Yeah.
But yeah, so what was the question exactly?
Okay, you're driving. You're not driving. So say you're riding. You're
Are
not
you
driving.
one of these people? That's what it was.
So like you're not driving. You're a passenger, and you need gas, you got to go to the bathroom, you want snacks, but they won't cross over to the opposite side of the highway. They just want to pull off to one they can
like an
keep
underpass.
Going. Yeah. They won't turn left, essentially.
Like it's like it's
so
20
they don't
minutes
have
away.
to U-turn again or something?
Yeah, something. Oh, yeah.
So I haven't dealt with those people much, so no. I don't see why that would be a problem because, I mean, what is it, 5 minutes out of your way, maybe?
Yeah, but it seemed like
stop it anyways.
It seems like it's, how many times have you done that? Garrett, have you ever done that where you crossed underneath, then you got in the car, started going the wrong direction?
I haven't done that, but I'm turning around if I have to turn around. I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
I just heard that during a podcast. It cracked me up because I will not go underneath. I will not stop.
You won't?
Go? No, because it just seemed like it's 15 minutes away. And it's like,
you know what? Now that you say it, that's true about you.
Yes.
I've been in the car on long trips with you, and you're like, we'll go to the next one. And then I'm like, all right, well, this Tahoe is about to smell like urine.
Yeah. The rest area, 25 miles.
I tend to not try to do something where I'm so pressed for time all the time. Like, so if it's a trip where I feel like I can't go 10 minutes out of my way to comfortably use the restroom and like stretch my legs, then I probably should have left earlier.
No,
if that's not in the equation, right?
Yeah.
So try to avoid those situations if at all possible.
When I get on that, Paul, what is the toll road superhighway in Florida? If you land in Orlando, you go
the Turnpike.
The Turnpike, and you
They're
can go
in the middle. They're in the middle of the look, Florida doesn't get credit for some of the brilliant things it does because of the common human waste that populates it, knowing from living there. But like when they built the Florida Turnpike, they solved the problem for people like you. They're in the middle. So like you go and you don't have to get off one way or the other. Part of the thing is that, most of the Turnpike is through the actual swamp and they have to build it in the middle because if they built it on the other side, you'd be surrounded by Gators. So yeah, no, the Turnpike's great. It's in the middle. Yeah, that should not be a problem for you.
Yeah, it is for me. It is. Yep.
I got nothing else on this topic unless y'all want to keep going on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say on College World Series, we just kind of interjected it in our realignment segment, but it deserves its own little spotlight. Gage Wood of Arkansas, as you're probably well aware, had the no-hitter for the Razorbacks as they just took care of business. But Chuck Dunlap says Gage Wood with the first no-hitter in the College World Series since 1960.
Wow.
Third no-hitter ever in Omaha. And also, in the process, he set the single-game College World Series record with 19 strikeouts.
I did not know he had that many.
If y'all were aware of that or not, but yeah, 19 strikeouts, a new College World Series record, third all-time no-no in Omaha, and first since 1960. So that's pretty impressive stuff there from Gage Wood as the Razorbacks get the win there. And so with that, you've got they're waiting on the UCLA LSU. Is that what they're waiting now?
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, whoever loses tonight will play against Arkansas.
Play against Arkansas.
And I feel bad for Murray State to be such a heartwarming story and then to go out on a cool story. Like, hey, they're the little engine that could, but congratulations to making it. It's really, really hard to do.
Yeah.
And they were, barely in the tournament, and then they made it all the way here. But again, once you run up against teams like UCLA, who's really good, and then you get a guy on the game of his life where the only base runner you have is a hit by pitch in the foot in the 8th inning, and then you had a second hit by pitch
that was overruled
because you leaned out over it, which, again, not a bad idea to try to bust up something when it's only 3-0 in the 9th. If you're out there, try to get hit by a pitch, get on base. You've got to do something to try to break this guy's concentration. Nothing did, and he was one bad pitch away from a perfect game.
This guy, he's built thick arms and tremendous mid-90s, lower 90s in his fastball. He was blowing them away. All right, quick note from the Phil Steele preseason magazine. This is one that affects everybody in college football. 2025's most improved teams. 2025's most improved teams. Paul, who are you high on that went downward last year in the Big 12 that will bounce back this year?
Utah. I'm very big on Utah. I like Devin Dampier. I like that they have potentially solved their quarterback black hole that existed because of Cam Rising's unfortunate injury. I'm very big on them that they could bounce back. And I think if I had to pick a second one, I would say Kansas might be able to kind of poke their head back up into respectability again.
They have Utah. He has Utah 2 and then Cincinnati 8. Craig?
Well, Oklahoma State at number 1?
No, this is for the entire country.
Oh,
Oklahoma
okay.
State's not on this list at all.
I know Paul was going to mention Oklahoma State. Yeah, I mean, Utah would have been the obvious choice. I think that is the clear answer if you're guessing on Big 12 schools. And it's going to be really interesting because there's a good chance they could fall in the middle and this is deemed irrelevant, but there's also a very strong chance that they either suck again, and then that's just going to be what they are. It's not going to be like, oh, well, see, Cam Rising was hurt, and we changed leagues, and Witt just lost his fastball for a few months, but we're still Utah. Like, that'll go to the wayside because then you're like 2 years in a row of being in this league where it's like you're not walking the way you're talking, and we're not going to buy the talk anymore. Or they can come out and they're going to kick some ass and be like the Utah that they profess to be and have been a lot of times in years past. And then there's going to be a lot of people, especially that decided to go join the blue bandwagon because that was the hip one to join last year, that are going to be eating a lot of crow because it was just an aberration and Utah's back to being Utah. And it could fall somewhere in the middle. And in the Big 12, it's likely that it does. But, yeah, I'm fascinated by where they land because if they are not very good again, then Kyle Whittingham's probably retiring with air quotes. He's going to be gone. And if they're really good, then, yeah, last year was an aberration, and that's going to not be fun for the BYU fans and the various others that have taken the opportunity to dunk on Utah because it's been fun to do. So, yeah, that's a team that's going to be a center feature focus for the Big 12 this year, but one that if you're guessing who could make a big turnaround, yeah, that'd be right near the top of my list.
Florida State won. Florida State they have nowhere else.
We're not talking about the number of conference games won last year, right?
No. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, take that, Calgorithm.
Yeah. Florida State is 1, and we do have got about 5 minutes here if you want to go. Florida State 1, Utah is 2, Cincinnati is 8, Oklahoma is 3. Is this John Mateer? And what other? I mean, they're a year older, but sometimes that means you have the same guys coming back.
Look, Craig can talk about Oklahoma a little bit more, but John Mateer, Jaden Ott alone make that, at least on paper, a much better offense than it was a year ago,
which was terrible.
Yeah, and for Florida State, we'll see what Gus Malzahn difference that makes, what Herb Hand, the offensive line, what Tony White, the new defensive coordinator, and the transfers that they brought in. I like, my concern about Florida State is this how it's going to be about every other year, is that they're going to be up and down under Mike Norvell, because he's just simply not that good at high school recruiting. I mean, it's simply, if you look at, what is going on in the schools around it, I'm not just talking about Miami and Florida, but UCF is better at high school recruiting classically over the last few years than they are. In fact, Gus Malzahn took some of those guys with him there. And then, Alabama and Georgia and all the teams that you want to be, Clemson, they're all better at high school recruiting than you. The team that's winning the conference more regularly, Clemson is better at that than you. So you got to get better at all of it. But I'll let Craig take over on Oklahoma and what it's not just those two guys, but those two guys to me in Mateer and Ott are the kind of avatar for the improvement on offense, at least right now.
Let me ask you, is Norvell on the hot seat?
Nah, I think he's got a couple years to get it right, given their circumstances. But he is if they go 2-10 again.
It'd be hard to put a guy on a hot seat that quickly when you were injury away from making the playoff. But I wondered kind of where people's heads are at with him. But yeah, it should be at least a 2-3 years of struggle before you go that route when you've had a good amount of success as well. But that first game will be really telling for Florida State. They get Bama right out of the chute. As far as Oklahoma goes, they better be much improved. If they're not, Brent Venables is on the hot seat, and he will be gone, in my opinion. Now, I am not knee-deep into Sooner Scoop like I used to be 15 years ago, so I don't know if there's things around his buyout that would make that more complicated or not. But certainly the sentiment I get is you better win now and prove something, or we can't just keep running in place or even running downhill somewhat. And if they do run in place or somehow go even further downhill, which is hard to imagine, which would be not even making a bowl game after the amount of moves they've made, then it would be a very justified firing, because you have gone out and spent millions of dollars on just your backfield alone. And so that by itself, I think is something that should be tremendously improved. Your receivers are going to be healthy. It's I don't know what the percentages would be, but nearly impossible to have as much injury issues. They did a whole independent study that they funded to see what the training staff was doing wrong, and then changed over the head trainer. So they've even touched that part of it. They've got a GM. They've got financial guys. They've done everything to build out a front office and to make changes and independent studies to see where even the training went wrong. And then the talent additions, they damn well better be improved. If not, I don't know what the answer is, because there's nothing in my mind that they haven't overturned and looked at. So that's one of those that,
the only thing they haven't overturned is the fact that their win-loss record, which they have a chance to start doing when they get to the season later in the fall, or later on at the end of the summer and fall. Yeah, there you go. That's it. Florida State, Utah, Oklahoma. All three last year were a disaster. All three. Oregon State at 4. North Texas with Eric Morris, the head coach, at 5. North Carolina with Belichick, they're 6. La Tech 7. Isn't Cumbie there?
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati 8. Air Force, the Falcons, and then NC State at 10. Don't they lose their quarterback to Florida State, Paul?
No, that was Boston College.
Okay, that's right. Castellanos. Okay.
NC State, I don't know. They lost Concepcion. They don't really know who the quarterback's
A&M?
gonna be.
Concepcion,
So I mean, maybe. I mean, Phil's done a lot more research on them than I have, and I'm never going to say that he's going to beat me in that category every single time. I don't know about. I think that they have a very good coach in Dave Doran, who the last couple years has kind of gotten on the other side of things. I do worry for Dave Doran, especially right now, that basketball has taken over as far as the outlay of NIL is going to go, because they just made a Final Four, then had to fire their basketball coach, and they hired Will Wade, who's essentially the Lane Kiffin of college basketball. And I think that it might be a little bit harder for him to kind of balance out that part of it. Now, granted, revenue sharing is coming, and maybe that's the saving grace for him. But given how we don't really know about all that just yet, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, because Dave Doran's a really good coach, but I'm not sure about the talent on that roster overall.
Yeah, so there we are. Those are the 12. Middle Tennessee State at 11, and then Virginia Tech at 12. When we come back, we have the NBA draft. It's just around the corner. It's not so much about the NBA, but the college players available and where they will go. I reached out to Tim McMahon, who's probably as good an NBA writer and media member as there is around the country, and he gave me the name of Raphael Barlo. He will be next. This is 365 Sports.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget, from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560, or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC. An equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
365 Sports, we take you up until 6 o'clock. The end of the show, Paul Catalina will have his top 5, and also Andrew Valade will have the results from a couple of the polls that he puts up in the chat room and the message area. So there is that with what we have at the end of the show, but much more to get to. By the way, back to my deal about if you're driving down the highway, building speed. Absolutely agree. It's a real pain to get back on the highway. If you do that, go back under any kind of overpass, and it usually means adding multiple lights to your trip, which could be another 8 minutes.
I think if the devil's in the details, like I think of Italy, not the country, but the Texas town, and that's as simple as it gets. You can cross over easily and turn right around. And it's all in the same. You know what I'm talking about? That stop. Like you can go to either side, and it's not a big deal at all. So it'll depend on your situation, I think.
Yeah.
But I think of that one, and I think that's not an issue. That takes 2 minutes at most.
And there's places on either side.
On either side, yeah.
Yeah. And look, hey, you can either go to the one that has a Stuckey's in it, or you can go to the one where you can buy a cross made out of a cow skull. So
yeah. With rhinestones on it.
Yeah. There's two things I love. I love being a cowboy, and I love the Lord Jesus Christ. And this intersects
and
both.
beer. You got to have pickup trucks and beer.
Yeah.
Raphael Barlo joins us on 365 Sports. The NBA draft is around the corner. Raphael, hey, man, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and Paul Catalina. So with all the international flair, do I not see as many of those type players this draft? Is there a reason for that, or am I missing something?
It's a combination of both. They just went to college first. So with NIL and all the money that international players can make by going to college first, you're starting to see a big influx of international players choosing the college route. So there are guys like Yegor Demin, Kasparas Yakachonis, guys like that are international players that just played 1 year of college basketball, and now they're in the one and done category as opposed to being considered international.
Raphael, this is a very interesting draft because you've got Cooper Flagg at the top. The Mavericks are going to draft him unless something wild happens, which I don't think is going to happen. But right when you get to number 2, the Spurs are faced with a question that includes Kevin Durant, possibly Giannis, although that doesn't look likely that it's going to happen, and all of this. So is this one going to get really fast because of that?
I think the Spurs are just going to go with the best player available, which is Dylan Harper. And whatever happens after that, I mean, I think it will open up some options. But the Spurs, I think they do have an interesting situation because, in my opinion, Harper's a point guard. De'Aaron Fox, who they just traded for at the trade deadline, he's best with the ball in his hands. And then Stephon Castle, who was the Rookie of the Year, he's best with the ball in his hands. And I understand that teams are running multi-ball handler lineups, but I don't know if all three of those guys really complement each other. So San Antonio does have an interesting decision to make, but I don't think that whoever they take at number 2 is going to have any impact on Kevin Durant. Now, Giannis, maybe.
You alluded to it jokingly about the Mavericks. Like after this past year, we can't trust them to do the surefire thing. There's always a chance they could go crazy and do something like they did just a few months ago. But how much of a sure thing and how much of a no-brainer is Cooper Flagg at number 1?
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. He actually is supposed to be in town, I guess, tomorrow it's just a formality. But I think the Mavs are going to take Cooper Flagg, unless it's just a crazy, unique situation where he says that he doesn't want to go to Dallas because he wants to go to a team where he's given the keys to the franchise from day one. I don't see a situation that unfolds where he's not the number 1 pick. Matter of fact, I mean, I live in Dallas. He's probably going to start looking for houses on his trip tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel like he fits in with the fabric of what they already have?
He's exactly what Nico Harrison said that he wanted when he made the trade. He talked about defense as being the cornerstone of what the Mavs plan on doing. So on one hand, I get it from the defensive standpoint. He's a very good defender. He can defend multiple positions. He led Duke in blocks and rebounds and steals, also scoring and assists. So he does have what the Mavericks have needed as far as like an additional multi-positional defender. But then again, with the timeline that was mentioned, I mean, he's only 18 years old. He just turned 18 in December. So I don't know if he necessarily fits that immediate championship timeline, but he does give the Mavs fans a bright future.
Duke will have how many players possibly, Raphael, drafted in the first 10 picks? Is there 3? Is that right?
I think there'll be 3 drafted in the first 10 and 5 overall.
We're talking to Raphael Barlo, the NBA draft at the end of the month here on 365 Sports. Paul?
What do you think that when it comes to VJ Edgecombe, where he fits in before Ace Bailey? Like, does it come down in that top 10 to kind of personal preferences on what they are? Because obviously the two Rutgers guys didn't play very long, after the season was over, because they spent all their money on just those two. So there's some debate on them, but does VJ maybe jump a spot there or so?
Yeah, I think that obviously Cooper's going to go number one. I think Dylan Harper is the lock at number two by the Spurs. Whether he plays for them or not, that's a different subject. But I think 3 through 10 is, you can make a case and say it's all in the eyes of the beholder. I definitely think VJ has a chance at going number 3 to Philly. I've heard that Charlotte really, really likes him, and they're a team that's going to really value like character and intel. And VJ's character and intel has come back. I mean, as clean so clean the Board of Health couldn't find dirt. I mean, people really, really love him as a person. And so Charlotte has had some issues, not necessarily last year, but just some guys that have had some issues off the court. And I think they had the 2021 draft that was just absolutely just brutal for that fan base. So from everything I hear, that they really like VJ at 4, but there's a chance that Philly could take him at 3.
I try to read as much as I can when it comes to the prospects, and I'm not anyone that breaks it down too much. But what are the drawbacks, if anything, with VJ and also UT's Trey Johnson?
So I'll start with Trey. I am a huge Trey Johnson fan. I mean, like I mentioned, I live in the Dallas area. I've watched him grow up, and I've watched him just work on his body. But he's just a phenomenal scorer. I'm probably higher on him than a consensus. I would actually take Trey at number 3. And I think that, just what he did this year at Texas, the SEC was historically tough. He led Texas to the first 4, but he led the SEC in scoring. He shot 39% from 3 on a heavy volume of contested attempts. And it was, a lot of attempts, 6 attempts per game. I think he's one of the more gifted scorers in this class. So if I'm Philly, that would be my choice at number 3. VJ, I may not be as high on VJ as others, but he's a tough eval for me because he had just a phenomenal summer last year representing the Bahamas at the Olympic qualifiers. And it led to him having just a major buzz coming into the year. And even though he had a good season with Baylor, I don't know if we saw the best of VJ, but I do have some concerns. He's just a very, very gifted athlete, but he wasn't the most efficient at the rim. Sometimes I thought he was a little passive, but then when Baylor was down players and they only had 6 guys that they were playing, he was more assertive then. So I just wonder, was it just the fit at Baylor didn't really maximize his game because they had multiple smaller guards? But between those two, I think it's a win-win for whoever selects those guys. But me personally, I think I would go with Trey.
Who? I'm sorry, Craig, go ahead.
Yegor Deming of BYU. Raphael, what do you think about the young man from the Cougars? Fun program Kevin Young's building up there right now, and he's going to be one of those guys I think they look back on as kind of one of those foundation pieces of his iteration of the program. Where do you feel about him going in the first round and just his game translating to the next level?
So I've been following Yegor since he was 15 years old. I actually went out to Madrid to watch him play in the fall of 2023. So it was last year playing in Europe, and I just talked to him at the draft. Really good kid, very likable, but he just has a unique game. He's 6'9". I think he's the best passer in the draft. He did have some bouts this year where he struggled with being assertive and with his consistency, but I like what he brings to the table as a big guard. I live in Dallas, and when Kyrie went down, the Mavericks had plenty of guys that wanted to score, but not enough players that were table setters. So he would have been perfect for the Mavs in the second half of the year because he looks to pass first, pass second, and then he'll go to, creating for himself third, but he's very unselfish. His draft range is pretty wide, man. There's some people that like him in the lottery, but then there's some people that have concerns about the shooting. He wasn't the most efficient shooter. There were times where it looked like BYU played better with him off the floor. There were times where he just was not assertive. There were games against Houston where he just looked like he did not want to bring the ball up the court. But to be fair, outside of OKC and Indiana, what we've seen in the playoffs, I don't think there's too many teams that defend like Houston. But I think he's an interesting prospect, and I think his range could be anywhere from 7 to like 17.
Who is your Jalen Brunson like steal in this draft, if there is one?
This draft is so hard to predict because I think 15 through 20, maybe 15 through 30, I think that's interchangeable. And then I can even say 25 through 35. But Jalen Brunson was a guy that played 4 years. He won a championship. He had, the resume, just there were concerns about his size. So I would say if there's a guy that's projected second round, that has the resume, that people aren't really mocking as a first rounder, that they may have some questions. And it's the exact opposite of Brunson. It is Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton, 4-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year, a guy that just does not miss when he gets the ball in the paint. He's got the numbers on both sides of the ball, but maybe because he's more so of a traditional 5, kind of like your old school back to the basket 5, that he's not as highly valued in today's NBA. But I think he could be a guy that makes teams scratch their head and wonder, like, how did he fall this far? And then you look at his resume, you say, well, really, how did he fall this far?
LJ Cryer is an interesting story. He's not thought of as a first-round pick or even somebody that might get drafted. But, we saw him for a little bit at Baylor, but he was behind Davion Mitchell and Jared Butler and Maceo Teague and company. And then he really was a hell of a player when he had a chance to play a lot when he was at Houston. But I'm not so sure where he fits in the NBA. What are your thoughts about him?
I think that it was absolutely just a big mistake for him to not be invited to at least the G League Elite Camp or the NBA Combine. If you look at his resume, he's like over 40% from 3 for his career, and it's not on like 2 attempts per game. Like, he's a sniper. He had a great resume in high school. He won a national championship with Baylor. Like you mentioned, he may not have been like a big piece to their puzzle, but he was on the team. And then Houston has been successful with him. So he's a winner and he can shoot. A little undersized. And I think there are some concerns whether or not he's a 1 or a 2, but he's a guy that I think is definitely worth a shot because he provides what teams look for: winning or like being able to win. And shooting. Every team wants shooting in today's NBA.
Raphael Barlo with us on 365 Sports.
Raphael, this is a very random question, but it's a thought I have quite a bit. If I am, say, a guy who's not going to be drafted in these 2 rounds, is my life cooler if I can sign with a European team in a really cool place like Madrid or Athens or Milan, or should I go to Grand Rapids? What should I do when faced with those 2 choices?
Well, first of all, if you are playing college basketball and all the money being thrown around in NIL, you need to stay in school as long as you can. You need to petition for that 5th year, that 6th year, whatever you can, because they're making too much money. Me personally, I love Europe, so I'm probably a little bit biased here. My 2 favorite things are scouting and traveling, and I've spent significant time in all 3 cities. I would definitely choose to live in Europe as opposed to playing in the G League. But that's just me. I'm a little older. Maybe 22-year-old Raphael would have said, I'm going to keep giving the NBA a shot. But also, because I understand the European game, like, it's tough for you to like get a chance to play in those cities right away. Like, when you start off as a rookie in Europe, you might have to play in the middle of nowhere, Greece, as opposed to Athens.
Yeah. Well, I saw there was a scene on a show called New Girl one time where one of the players was a former basketball player, and they said that this league was uphill. Like, that's how bad it was in Europe, that it does. With Tweety Carter, who's a coach here on the Baylor staff, was, if it was like the 50s, he'd have one of those suitcases with all the stickers on it.
Epe Udo.
Epe, played everywhere.
Epe is one of my best friends. I actually lived with Epe in Istanbul, and I lived with him.
Did you really?
Yeah. So I was at his when he was got inducted to the Baylor Hall of Fame. I guess it was a few months ago. So I've been with Epe and Bologna, Italy. I lived with him in Istanbul. That was the best year of my life. And then we were in China during COVID. So I was like his videographer / rebounder. I don't know, manager. But yeah, man, Epe is one of my best friends.
How many of those books did he recommend to you behind you?
Man, I was actually the one. I was actually the one like setting up some of the book clubs in Istanbul, and actually that's how I met him. He rented out a theater here in Dallas for the people in his book club, and they thought it was a joke that he was asking for their information. And he flew everybody to Dallas. He rented out a theater, and they watched the book. They watched a movie of the book that they read together.
That's
and
awesome.
I was doing video work, and I kind of like documented just like the story behind it. And then that's how I ended up meeting him. And then I documented his last year in Istanbul. So I was like his videographer. So small world, but yeah, he reads a lot of books, like, I don't know, 5 a week. I mean, he just reads and reads.
What a great guy. Let me ask you this, and we got to go, and I know you've given us more time than we asked for. When you're overseas in Istanbul, wherever it might be, are the American players treated like rock stars? At one point, that used to be the case when it came to baseball in Japan or Korea. And at times we heard the same thing when it came to basketball players in Europe.
Yeah, Epe was definitely a rock star. If he would have stayed, because he won a EuroLeague title. He was the MVP when Fenerbahce won the EuroLeague. If he would have stayed a few more years, they definitely would have built a statue for him. But he's a likable guy, and he made sure that he embraced their culture. So his situation is a little bit different. I think it's either or. Like, if you're an American and you're playing well, they love you. But if you're not playing well, it's a little different than here. You know, if you're here, if you lose a game and you post on Instagram, fans might be mad. But there, if you lose a game, they don't want you to go to the restaurant. They don't want you to do anything but go straight to your apartment until the next game. So the fans are brutal, but the love is crazy when they love you. But if you're not playing well, then you get all the blame. So it's a mixture of both.
Same thing that I heard when players went to Japan when their careers were winding down, or in baseball back in the day. Raphael, fantastic stuff. Glad Tim McMahon got us in touch with you. Tonight, Game 5, Pacers and Thunder. Is this the game that decides the series, or what?
I thought last game did. I thought that the fourth quarter may have decided the series. I'm going for Indiana just because my dad's from Indianapolis, but I thought the Pacers really missed out on the opportunity. But I would say whoever wins this game probably is the NBA champion.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Great stuff. Raphael Barlo with us, NBA draft analyst and covers the NBA. That was great. Appreciate his time here with us on 365 Sports. Craig does Off the Radar Tuesdays and Thursdays, so mainly when we catch up on the Stanley Cup and NBA playoffs and other sports. Some of that's about to be over here in the next few days, depending on the results. Tonight, Game 5 in OKC. What? And Emery, is he there?
I think so.
He told me the ticket prices had gotten pretty high.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I would love for him to get to go and see his team, win it all. I mean, that would be great.
Yep. Oklahoma City, Indiana, Game 5 tonight. We are joined by Dan Murphy, ESPN, Craig Smoak and David Smoak and Paul Catalina. Dan, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. So what is next in college sports? So waiting for anything else, more lawsuits, or when will all of this, if ever, calm down?
Hey, fellas, thanks for having me. No calm on the horizon quite yet. Still a lot yet left to be settled. But, I mean, what's up next is 2 weeks from now, we're going to have schools cutting checks directly to their athletes, which is a huge, major milestone for changing college sports. There's still a lot left to be decided of, basically this new settlement that got final approval about a week ago. Allows schools to pay their athletes directly and tries to put in place a bit of a salary cap to even the playing field. And to me, the biggest questions, which will probably be settled in the courtroom at some point, are basically whether or not schools are able to effectively enforce the salary cap.
Do you think that will be the thing that perhaps leads them to eventually collective bargaining, which solves all their problems?
If they can't figure it out legally, yeah, I think that gets us there. To me, there are two, there are a lot of different ways we get to it, but there are two main end destinations for when that calm might come in college sports. One of them, if you, are cheering for the players in there, the lawyers who represent players, is a collective bargaining agreement that looks at least something like the way things are structured in professional sports. If you're with the schools or with the NCAA right now, what they're pulling for is to have Congress step in and write a law that says, hey, we've done a lot for players right now. It's a little bit more fair. They're making plenty of money. Now we need to put some things in place to make sure this doesn't become professional sports. One of those two end solutions is probably where we're headed.
Dan, I mentioned this. Mac Rhodes, Baylor's director of athletics and now chairman of the College Football Playoff, is going to join us in studio tomorrow. I heard Arkansas AD Hunter Yurachek discussing now that players or athletes are getting paid, would athletic departments start to cut back on some of the amenities that the athletes have been able to get in the past, even like what they get for travel or food, etc. Have you heard that from anybody else?
Sure. I think there's an open question. Look, so this new salary cap is going to be $20.5 million starting this year, and it's only going to go up from there. And that money's got to come from somewhere. From the schools with really deep pockets, they can probably gather enough donors and circle the wagons and get some of that money. But for most colleges, it's going to mean making tough business decisions. And a lot of those amenities that you talked about, whether they're fancy locker rooms or, lobsters after big wins or whatever it may be, those are the old recruiting incentives, right? That's how you get a player to show up to the school when you can only offer them a scholarship. Now you don't need to do that as much. If you come with the bigger paycheck, you probably don't need the fancy locker room to land a play.
But wouldn't that be, they've got to be pretty judicious with that, especially when it comes to travel and everything, because the littlest thing can send you into the transfer portal. And also, this is their fault that they're in this position, not the players' fault. So why are you going to take something away from the players?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be an immediate downgrade to riding the bus like a single A baseball team or anything like that. There will be some teams that do this a lot differently and try to chip away at the budget in different ways. And I think one of the bigger fears that a lot of people in college sports have is that instead of coming, that the football team will still be treated very well, but some of those other sports will be downgraded and not quite have the same amenities or budgets that they used to have or that they've enjoyed over the course of the last 10 or 20 years as the money in college sports has just skyrocketed.
So where are we then? And the timeline of the roster limits, and when does that kick in for those who were released early in the spring because they didn't know if there would be room for them, and some of them had a chance to come back? Has that all been settled?
Yeah, so we have an understanding of how that's going to look moving forward. So basically, as part of this settlement, the NCAA and the schools got together and said they want to have new limits on how big a team's roster can be. In the back and forth of trying to get to the finish line, the judge told them that whatever rules they put in place can't cost a current athlete his or her spot on the roster. So they have a way to sort of grandfather them in. So those athletes that may have lost their spot are not going to lose them anymore. And the schools have to basically submit a list to the NCAA by the end of this month on who's going to be their sort of special grandfathered in athletes. And then, basically leading up to the first day of the football season or the first day of fall sports season, the day before it is when teams have to be down to their new roster limit. So for football, that's going to be 105 players. So rather than having 125, 130 guys showing up at practice in September and October, you're going to have to get down to 105 before the start of the regular season. So we'll probably see some teams making some cuts after the first few weeks of training camp.
Do you feel like Title IX is just a bump in the road, or could this actually become like a heavy cholesterol inside somebody's heart?
I think it's one of a few major problems that could throw a big wrench in things here. Moving forward, most schools right now, of that $20.5 million we talked about, schools are planning to spend 75% or so of that on football players, another 10 to 15% on the basketball team if they got a good basketball program. And so that leaves at most 10% for female athletes, let alone, the baseball team or the lacrosse team, wherever else they want to put some money in the pockets of. So, depending on how you view this money and how it works, how you see it in the eyes of the law in Title IX, some people believe the money should be split 50-50 between men and women. And that's going to invite some lawsuits. That's something that at some point, inevitably, a judge is going to have to weigh in on and make the decision. Most of the folks I talk to in college sports don't think that it's going to be don't think they're going to be stopped from spending the kind of money on football and basketball that they want to spend. But they've been wrong in courtrooms before. So I think until that's settled, everyone will be a little bit nervous about how that distribution of the big pot of money is going to go.
Did they maybe barrel through Title IX a little bit and wait to clear it up on the back end, especially given the fact that the administration has changed in the middle of all this as well, and the department that enforces Title IX is very much under question whether it will exist in a couple years or not?
Yeah, that's right. The Department of Education under the President Trump's administration is certainly not quite as robust as it was in past administrations, and may not exist at all at some point in the future if he has his way, based on some reports. I think that's part of the issue with the NCAA is they don't want this to be a moving target. They don't want every time there's a new president or a new political party that comes into power, they don't want to have to adjust their rules and adjust their budgets. They need something that's a little bit more set in stone, and that'll probably come through some type of legal battle in the courts. But until then, there's going to be a bit of unrest. And when you ask about sort of slow playing it, there's a bit of that. There's a bit of the legal nuance of working through this settlement, where basically the Title IX law doesn't apply to the legal questions that the judge for this settlement had to handle. So this particular judge really didn't have the authority to make a decision on Title IX. It was always going to be something that had to be sorted out afterwards.
The first check that's cut, and I know that every school might cut them all at the same time. I don't know if it's going to be like a wire or an actual physical check. How much will that be worth in the NCAA museum, or for people who have covered this sport for as long as we have?
I certainly hope somebody has a nice ceremony with those oversized comic, like Happy Gilmore style checks that they're cutting to their quarterback or something like that. I imagine these days most of it goes through Venmo or direct deposit or something a lot less fun, but hopefully there'll be some ceremony for a big one at some point. I'd hang that up on the office wall at some point.
Dan Wetzel was on with us last week, and obviously now with ESPN, on college sports has always been a business. The House settlement just made it even more of a business. Who gets the money, et cetera, competitive ballots, whatever. Do you feel like that this will bring back also cheating inside NCAA football or other programs?
It's a good question. So basically, what they're trying to do as part of the settlement, the school's going to be paying players, and what they're trying to stop is the boosters and the collectives that have sprung up over the last 4 or 5 years to pay, what are on paper NIL deals, but in reality, they're just salary payments to players. The NCAA and the schools are hoping to stop that practice. And if they are successful in stopping boosters and collectives from paying players via NIL deals, the boosters and collectives are going to find another way to pay them. And that might be sticking money back into duffel bags. It might be setting up parents with jobs. But basically, there is enough market demand and enough value out there in trying to recruit the best football players you can that it's not going to top off the $20 million mark that schools have set for their cap right now. So whether it's through sort of legitimate NIL deals that the schools help to facilitate, or whether it's going back to old days of sticking money in a shoebox, that money's going to flow to players one way or the other.
Dan, you wrote a book. I think John Barr also was a part of the book about Larry Nassar and that horrific story. How long were you working on that? And really, how difficult was it to write about what you had learned?
Sure. Yeah, it's certainly a different world than the college sports stuff I've been covering the past couple of years. But we write a lot about legal issues on the group that I'm a part of. So that one was several years in the making, a lot like the NCAA issue. It's one of those things that you learn more and more as you go, and it slowly leaks out. But that was definitely a career-changing and life-changing experience for me to get to watch a lot of that unfold and watch the women who eventually put Larry Nassar behind bars for the rest of his life, watch them sort of rise up and take back control of something that had been robbed of them.
What is your what story are you looking forward to most following and writing about when it comes to the actual season coming up, Dan?
Well, it would be great to see a couple games. I think it's going to be really interesting to see who rises to the top in this new world where you can construct a roster overnight. How that all plays out is going to be fascinating, I think, in the years ahead. I think there are a lot of different ways you can go about building a roster right now. And so you'll have folks who want to spend, most of their money on a superstar quarterback, or folks that might want to spend all their money on a defense or whatever it may be. There's this brand new sort of opportunity. If you're a little bit nerdy and into the Moneyball stuff like I am, there will be a whole bunch of different strategies coming out of the gates here because there's no proven best way to do it yet. And seeing which one of those succeed and which one of those fail on the field is something I'm going to be really excited to see in both football and basketball, I think, in the coming year.
Well, remember when Deion went to Colorado, people were clutching their pearls because he wanted to basically just eliminate the entire roster, bring a few people with him. And now that just seems like, okay, somebody else is doing that.
Yeah, a lot of the things that seemed totally unacceptable even 4 or 5 years ago in the world of college sports are suddenly commonplace and within the rules. I do think it's interesting that with this new setup, schools are going to have contracts with their players. And I've seen a handful of these contracts already, and a lot of them are going to be designed to try to disincentivize, to dissuade players from getting in the transfer portal. So while the settlement doesn't directly deal with transfers, I do think it potentially slows down the type of transfer portal traffic we've seen, where you've got players sticking around for a season, sometimes even less, before trying to jump to the next place to get a better deal.
Dan, thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate you jumping on with us today. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, guys. Good talking to you.
Dan Murphy, ESPN, on many things that, wrote the book on Larry Nassar when all that horrible situation, what was that, a few years ago, wrote the book in 2020 released it with John Barr, but also many of the legal entanglements and also the questions still that abound when it comes to college athletics moving forward. Mitch Light from The Athletic covers college baseball, the World Series today with a breaking news story with what Arkansas did with the no-hitter against Murray State to continue on. Murray State is out. We'll talk to Mitch about that, tonight's games, and more. And this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. The CEO and general manager is Ted Teague. Employee pricing back, but never left. Well, it was gone for a long, long time. Then they brought it back, and they have kept it into the month of June. Need muscle? The Ram 3500. 4x4 legendary Cummins diesel, $52,990, or save $15,000. I said that right, on a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon that will take you anywhere. But that is a very small supply. There was, in fact, 2 last week. I probably need to check with Ted, David Gray, and the great people at Alan Samuels to see if that's even still available. 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab, 1.9% financing for 72 months, or $12,000 straight off MSRP plus 3.9% financing, or straight up $16,000 off MSRP. If you have good credit, bad credit, David Gray and the team are making deals happen every day at Alan Samuels. Here's yet one more. The Jeep Compass 4x4s, $24,995. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at Baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help us finally hear semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Penny to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
What a day in Omaha, and a game still to be played tonight with the game between LSU and UCLA. But what an afternoon. Mitch Light, theathletic.com, joins us on 365 Sports. My goodness, Arkansas with pizzazz, a no-hitter. They win the game. Murray State, very competitive, but Paul made this comment, first time, Mitch, since 1960 that someone's thrown a no-hitter, and that's what Arkansas and Wood did.
Yeah, and obviously, guys, just an epic performance and a very poor performance on my part. I was in Omaha from Wednesday to Sunday night. I come home, and, in what should have been a sleepy elimination game with nothing happening, we get the greatest, one of the most eventful College World Series games in a long time. But, yeah, Gage Wood's an interesting guy. He was going to be a weekend starter for Arkansas. He started as a weekend starter. If you watch the broadcast, he hurt his shoulder, missed maybe 6 weeks, 2 months, working back into the rotation. And you can see why he is considered a draft, such a potential first-round draft pick. Just phenomenal performance. The fastball was incredible, literally unhittable, I guess you would say. Jared Bednar, not Jared Bednar, drawing a blank on his first name, from Mississippi State in 2021, had 2 great performances, including a one-hitter in the Game 3, the championship game against Vanderbilt. But as far as just no hard contact, just making hitters look foolish, I don't think I've seen on such a big stage a performance like this ever.
What did you think about the review? Did they get it right?
Hated it.
Yeah.
I watch, obviously you guys know, I watch a lot of college baseball, so I'm very familiar with the rule and the interpretation and how it's called. If a lot of people just kind of zooming in and who just watch Major League Baseball, the rule is you don't have to get out of the way, but you can't lean into it. And if anything, in my interpretation, he almost tucked his shoulder in a little bit. He did pivot and turn his back, which Chris Burke on the broadcast said you're allowed to do. But in my view, no way did he stick his elbow out to get hit by the pitch. He moved it a little bit, but he almost tucked it in. So I hated that. And if I'm Murray State, I'm mad. At that point, it's 3-0. If you get the leadoff runner on the 9th, Wood's pitch count at that point was what, 110? At some point, you're going to get, if you keep battling, you might get his pitch count up to 120, 125, and they take him out. The game wasn't over. It wasn't like a 7-0 game there. So I hated that interpretation of the call, and you rarely see it overturned either way. It gets reviewed a lot, but you rarely see it overturned. So that added to it, in my opinion.
Mitch, tonight the next game, UCLA and LSU. Your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, really good. 2 great programs. LSU, the better team, not going out on a limb there. They've got, Anthony Iacin, who's been a very, very good pitcher, transferred in from UC San Diego, has been great in the latter half of the season. This is a good UCLA team, but it's not a vintage, amazing pitching UCLA team of the last, that we saw some in the 2010s. Even, I was at the game the other night, and John Savage, their coach after the game, just basically said, we don't have a staff full of guys with great stuff. You hear the term pitchability now. They got smart guys who know how to win games, but you look at their stats, they're not great from a pitching standpoint. This LSU team isn't a great offensive team. It's a good offensive team. I just think Anthony Einson on the mound for LSU is going to do enough to shut down UCLA, and I think LSU would scratch out enough runs to win the game. But, it has a potential to be a great uniform game. I'm a big in college baseball uniforms. I was in awe of UCLA's uniforms when I was out there, and LSU obviously has traditional uniforms as well.
Who has the deepest, and now that some of these teams are gone, but who does have the deepest pitching staff among those still remaining?
Arkansas. And, not that they necessarily had to have it, but the fact that they get a complete game out of Gage Wood, and they're they're the one team that if you said could afford to come out of the losers bracket, it would be them. Now they got to get the sticks going. They did not hit the ball well. Obviously Kate Anderson was brilliant for LSU the other night, but not taking anything away from Murray State. What a great story. But the fact that they had trouble today with Murray State's number 2 starter, and what was the score? 3-0 in that game. So I think that's the concern. They will pitch well enough to win. It's just whether or not they can hit well enough.
Coastal Carolina, watching them the other day, Mitch, I've watched the other thing. We've talked about them a lot. They're very confident. They put the ball in play so well. That catcher they have is brilliant.
Yes.
Sets up the strike zone like a maniac. And then he's like a really just a pure like Pudge Rodriguez, hitter, and just puts it in play all the time. I really like watching them, and they've got a chip on their shoulder. This is to me, outside of obviously Arkansas and LSU are scary, but that to me is a scary team because they feel like they're playing with house money every second of this tournament.
Yeah, they have the perfect sort of balance as the attitude of a number 4 seed and the talent of a number 1 seed, which is dangerous. And they are, I don't care what league you play in or where you come from, when you win whatever 20-something games, or maybe it's more than that, they haven't lost since April, is amazing. And their pitching staff is very, very deep. We saw it last night. What a performance there. Obviously upstaged today, but they can hit the ball. And I think they're kind of a team built for Omaha. I'm trying to blank who they beat last night. I've seen way too many games. Oregon State. Yeah, sorry guys. I've seen way too many teams. Oregon State hit some balls hard to the track, and they even joked about it after the game. They asked the pitcher what he thought about playing in Charles Schwab Field. He's like, I love it. You just hit the ball deep, and our guys go get it. The ball's obviously not carrying. I think there's been 4 home runs there. So when you're built around pitching, like Arkansas is, like Coastal Carolina is, and you get to Omaha, the park really sets up in your favor. And they're in a great position. You win those first 2 games in Omaha, you are in a great position. You sit back, you watch those other teams battle it out in the losers bracket. So they're in a great spot.
As for who they would face out of Oregon State and Louisville coming up tomorrow afternoon, is there a better matchup? Or what intrigues you as well about that game? I think probably from a talent standpoint, I give Oregon State maybe the talent edge, a little bit more top end talent. Louisville played well in the postseason. Obviously, they've pitched well. They've had some freshman pitchers come up. My pick would be Oregon State. I think Coastal's pitching is going to be too deep for either one of those teams. So either whether it's Oregon State or Louisville, I would expect Coastal to emerge there because they've got to lose twice now. I think we'll see them in the championship series.
So with Murray State's story and their stadium, which we've all heard and seen the story, you've also written about it too, to where they were with that incredible facility in Omaha, man, they did well. They really, it's not like they got blown out 12-2 or whatever. It's not that they went to represent themselves, Mitch. They belong. They're really good too.
Yeah, and a couple things on that. Obviously I was at the UCLA game on Saturday, and I thought Murray State was sort of a tough luck loser. They hit the ball hard. They had been on base all game. UCLA made some great defensive plays, so credit UCLA. But I thought if you're judging like who hit the ball harder, they both had 9 hits. I thought Murray State consistently made better contact. Yeah, so you're right. They deserve to be there. And what a great story. I mean, I had just being around those guys, the access for the media at the College World Series is unbelievable. Like media day, you're down in the dugout. You can grab any player you want. I was talking to one player, and then 3 feet away from me, there was a guy doing a local interview, and some player, I don't know his name, he just looked around the field. He goes, I cannot believe this is my life. I cannot believe I'm in Omaha. And, I didn't see the press conference today yet. I'll go back and look at their press conference, but I was at the one the other night, and just, they wanted to win, but they really appreciated the stage they were on. They were literally just happy to be there. But you're right, a very good team. They deserve to be there. Like I said, they only gave up 3 runs to Arkansas today. You give up 3 runs in an elimination game. I'd love to look that up. The team that gives up 3 runs usually has a pretty good winning percentage in an elimination game.
I felt it yesterday in the Louisville game. That they really charged up in that last inning, but to knock out a pitcher who's been one of the best, and then you have the death by 1,000 paper cuts. You mentioned Louisville a second ago. How much momentum do you think that does build for Louisville to win it without knocking the ball out of the yard? Just small ball on it and rely on mistakes.
Yeah, this group of Louisville Cardinals isn't part of any previous ones, but as good of a job as Dan McDonald, I'm drawing a blank. What you guys know what I'm talking about, has done there. His track record in Omaha isn't great, and not again, he's done an amazing job with the program. But if they would have gone 0-2 again, not saying there's no hot seat, but it just would have put a lot of pressure on the program again. So for them to come back the way they did, and I think they have a ton of momentum. And there's one thing that they steal a ton of bases. Like you said, they put pressure on the defense. And one thing that's kind of charming about college baseball in a weird way is, while these are the highest level teams we're seeing, they will make mistakes on defense. And that's kind of Louisville's MO. Put the ball in play, steal the bases, let the other team make a mistake. And we saw that. Arizona imploded in the 8th inning there. Our Louisville looked dead. So that Louisville can, Oregon State's a very well-schooled team and all that, but they had their troubles against Coastal Carolina in the first inning last night. So I think that's going to be Louisville's plan of attack again. You got to get on base first, but if you can get on base, you put pressure on the defense on that big stage. We've seen some, I'm kind of rambling here, but we've seen some of the best defensive players in the country. Ava Arquette from Oregon State's made a couple errors. Some of the best players in the country have made errors on this big stage in Omaha.
Mitch, we sometimes have, it depends, recency bias. We sometimes want to make something out of 1 year, a college football playoff or the College World Series. But this year was so unique. With last year, 2 conferences represented everybody, the ACC and the SEC. And this year with Murray State, Coastal Carolina, of course, yes, they've won a national title among everybody else. Did we learn anything new, or is this just one of those years where it was just so deep? What would you take out of all that?
The boring answer is somewhere in the middle. I mean, you don't want to overreact to last year when it's 4 ACC, 4 SEC. You don't want to overreact to this year and say, oh, the sport's solved. Look at this parity. We're never going to have a situation where there's 5 SEC teams again. It's such a high variance sport. Things happen in baseball in the postseason. So I don't think we can really draw too much from this, except that it could happen again because it's baseball. But I think it's great. Talking to national media, people in Omaha, everyone thought it was so refreshing to have the geographical diversity, the conference diversity we had this year. The restaurants there. Now the crowds there were great crowds there. The restaurants there would probably prefer to have 5 SEC teams or a bunch of teams in 500 miles away to get more fans there. But I think it was great for the sport this year. But to answer your question, I don't think it really proves anything one way or the other.
Mitch Light, The Athletic, with us on 365 Sports. So you went to Omaha. You cover baseball? Was that your first trip, or you've been there 8 or 10 times?
No, it was my first trip as a media member. My covering baseball for The Athletic is relatively new. I've been a college football editor at The Athletic for 5-6 years. I started dipping my toes in the base. I'm a big baseball fan, so I just started kind of doing it on my own. And I said, hey, ask my bosses, can I write college baseball? They're like, sure, go for it. So I've actually been to Omaha 4 previous times, but as a fan, sat in the stands. So it was really, it's a great, very well-run event. Like I mentioned before, the access to the media is great. And if you guys have not been to Omaha, I cannot, you probably hear this from everyone, cannot recommend it enough, how the town embraces everyone. You got 8 fan bases there. I would just go to a breakfast place and everyone there's wearing College World Series stuff. I really went to a breakfast place 2 days ago. I saw fans from all 8 teams in there. And that's just kind of what you see when you go out in Omaha this week.
We went to a Nebraska football game back in the fall, and we came back, of course, flew into Omaha, drove to Lincoln, not a very long trip. And we were there and went by the stadium and had breakfast and that, not like 3 blocks away. It is, they just, how come they're always in Omaha? How come they're always in? They embrace that event like no other.
It's perfect there. And it's not the easiest place to get to for a lot of people. There's not direct flights everywhere. And it's obviously it's a long trip from both coasts, but it's just, and I don't think they ever will move it, but it's just, don't mess with success. Now there's a lot of locals there that really bemoan the move from Rosenblatt Stadium to TD Ameritrade. It's now Charles Schwab Field. They think it's too corporate now. Downtown, it used to have that kind of that feel like the stadium was literally in a neighborhood. Now, I never went to Rosenblatt. My first time was in 2011, the first year of the new stadium. I can't imagine it being much better. The locals will tell you it was great there, but it's great. Like you said, the stadium's immaculate. It's right on the river there, and they do it right, and I don't think it'll ever move.
What are most of the college baseball coaches that you talk to's feelings about new roster limits, which they've wanted for 30 years? Desperately, but also the way that schools may react to it, that now that they could have 34 if they wanted to, but depending on how popular baseball is, they may not exactly get their way.
Yeah, I do a preseason coaches forum every year, and you can go back and look at, if you Google me in the Athletic, you can find the ones I did before the season. I asked the question, nothing was finalized with the House settlement at the time. I asked about the roster limits. At that time, it looked like they were going from 40 to 34, and I asked, I think it was 8 or 9 coaches, and they were kind of split on the number. Most think the number's a little too small, with injuries, and I know your question's more about the finances, but first, they think 34 is kind of a little too small, and then now they just want to know the rules. Talking to some people there, they understand some schools in the SEC are going to be fully funded at 34. Some schools might be in the low 20s. Some schools are going to stay at 11.7. I think it's a bigger issue with those Big Ten schools. A lot of Big Ten schools have made a nice commitment to baseball in recent years. They've hired some good coaches, but they got to divvy up the money. And at a lot of those schools, baseball isn't the third most important sport. Like pretty much every SEC and ACC school, you got football, basketball, and then baseball. Some schools, maybe baseball is higher. But in the Big Ten, you got some schools where wrestling is more important. You got some schools where hockey is more important. So I think those coaches know they're going to be at a serious disadvantage when it comes to compared to SEC schools, ACC schools, some Big 12 schools. So I think they're all split. They all want to know the rules. No one really knows what to expect.
Does the NIL or now, the revenue sharing affect the decision by high school players to enter the Major League Baseball amateur draft, which of course is this month, and or go to college and make some more? Does that affect the trend we've had over the many years?
Yeah, it's the high-end guys. No one's turning down if you're a top 20 pick. The money's just too great. Where we've seen it in recent years is maybe the late first round, second, third round guys that traditionally would just go because the money's too great. Now they're getting some NIL, they'll get some revenue share. So that's why the talent is increasing in college baseball. It's a good thing. Now we'll find out about the NIL above and beyond rev share with this whole NIL Go thing, if that affects everything. But big picture, yes, the fact that these players are able to make money has no doubt impacted their decisions to go to college. And a lot of what's happening too is, the draft, everyone just says that 3 years, but a lot of these guys are draft eligible, not a lot. Some of them are draft eligible sophomores if you're a certain age. So like Kentucky got a guy who was drafted in the first round by the Tampa Bay Rays, and he turned down a lot of money to go to Kentucky, Taylor Bell, second baseman, and because he's going to be a draft eligible sophomore. So if you only have to stay in college for 2 years, it kind of helps your decision sometimes to bypass that money.
Glad you got a chance to go. Too bad you missed the no-hitter. But
thanks. Yeah. It reminded me when I was a kid growing up, going to Yankee games. Dave Righetti threw a no-hitter, I think on July 4th one year, and we had tickets the next day. So that's the story of my life.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. You've done a great job with us to give us a lot of the knowledge of the College World Series, the playoffs, et cetera, baseball tournament. Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate it.
Enjoy talking to you guys. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Mitch Light, theathletic.com. And tonight, there's still that game. LSU, the Tigers, go Tigers, Geaux, right, Garrett?
Yes, sir.
Against UCLA in what he said is a great uniform game, too. Two good teams. The loser will play Arkansas in what will then become an elimination game. All right, when we come back, we're not done. We still have much more to get to. We talk golf about, when there's a major, we have the draft. And, by the way, we did the draft last Wednesday. Rob Bolton from PGAtour.com. Emery, Paul, Rob, me, we all didn't get into the weekend. We had players that got into the weekend, but none of us had the entire 4-team roster get into the weekend, which is now back-to-back major championships.
Yeah, so the belt sits unclaimed.
Think about this. These are not all the guys that missed the cut, but, for example, Corey Connors, who Emery picked, he didn't even make it he withdrew from the tournament. Fleetwood's a grinder, missed the cut. Oberg, fantastic player from Tech, fantastic young player, missed the cut. Patrick Cantley missed the cut like on a bogey on 17. DeChambeau missed the cut. Joaquin Neiman, he warned you, Paul. Rob, well, he didn't warn you. He mentioned it after
the fact. Yeah.
He missed the cut. The best player lately on Live.
I'm done with Live guys.
Straka had been on fire, missed the cut. And Lowry, the ultimate of the grinders, missed the cut. Nobody but J.J. Spaun, unassuming, had a nice year, runner-up at the Players' Championship and a couple of other tournaments. J.J. Spaun, the unassuming U.S. Open champion from the big, bubbly, Mr. powerful Bryson DeChambeau, who was an amazing story last year when he won it by beating Rory with the putt on 18. Then you go from that to almost like a cartoon character, DeChambeau, great guy, to J.J. Spaun, who would rather just be just another guy, right? What a win it was for him. Shane Ryan was there. He covers the golf for the Golf Digest. His story was actually on McIntyre, who was right there on the edge of getting into a playoff and was sitting and spending most of the time with him when J.J. Spaun rolled in the long putt. We're going to show the putt if we can in the next segment. Shane Ryan, he'll join us on the U.S. Open champion, J.J. Spaun. That's next. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. Dr. Rob Maxey and his great staff inside the Central Texas Marketplace off I-35, southern part of Waco. State-of-the-art imaging machine. You also will have, you're going to love this because your budget. You're told by your doctor because of what might be a ligament tear or injury, muscle tear or injury, that they need a better look. They need an MRI. And you go, oh my God, how much is that going to cost? Whether you have great insurance or not, no matter what you have, $497 or less is what's going to cost you. The average is about $1,100. $497 and state-of-the-art imaging machine. The Texan specialists have made my trips there, and I've been there many times. I've had my lower back image twice, my cervical upper spine once, my shoulder before I had rotator cuff surgery in 2015 once, and I even had an imaging done on my abdomen to just check to make sure there was nothing that should be there. And that was nice, kind of a peace of mind. Ideal MRI, $497 or less, state-of-the-art imaging machine. Texan specialists are amazing. No long lines or waiting room. IdealMRI.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
To Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
365 Sports as we hit midway through this 5 o'clock hour. Paul's top 5 and Andrew's poll results just around the corner. Here is, and I'm watching this. This was savagery.
Don't need to make it. 2 putts.
How about one?
Shane Ryan was there at Oakmont in outside of Pittsburgh. He joins us. He's been with us before. Does a great job covering golf. Has there ever been a more unassuming champion at the U.S. Open?
Yeah, well, definitely not last year with Bryson. No, I think he might take the cake. I'm thinking back, and guys like Justin Rose have won, and he's kind of quiet, but he's not that humble when that. I think JJ Spaun is absolutely probably the most unassuming major champ we've ever had. He's great. He almost won the Players this year, and a lot of us were kind of hearing him speak a lot for the first time, and everybody kind of likes him. And he's a very down-to-earth guy, no pretension about him. And when he took that lead on Thursday, kind of people were like, well, that's a classic first-round leader. He's probably not going to hang around. But based on what he did at the Players, I really thought. So I don't know if he's going to win, but I definitely think he's going to. He's not going to fold. That's for sure.
The course was vicious, Shane, and even more so after the rain on Sunday. How did he get through it? There were several guys who were playing really well that it destroyed them on Sunday.
It's kind of fun because I think he bogeyed something like 5 of his first 6 holes. And, the lesson I took away from it is, okay, everybody's going to melt down in Oakmont. The thing to do is melt down early and then surge late. Rather than holding steady early and melting down at the end, because he did, he had a little bit of bad luck, but he made a lot of bogeys. He started the day 3 under and finished at 1 under, but I think he was as low as 1 over, 2 over at a certain point. So he had his troubles just like everyone, but he hung tough. I really think that's what you can kind of congratulate him, the most on, is that there are a lot of players who have given up after that start. Not like walked off the course, but just spiritually, basically, they would have been defeated. Having dealt with this course for 54 holes to change, he hung tough, and he hung in there. Everybody else came back to him, and then all of a sudden, after all the suffering and everything, the golf god smiled on him, and for the last 2 holes, everything just went right. I was on 18 when he hit his approach in, and we thought that, well, he's been putting great all weekend, but that's a difficult 2-putt, and then Victor Hovland hits the ball a foot outside him, and we all just started laughing because it was like, when it's meant to be, it's meant to be, because now he's going to get a perfect read from the guy in front of him. So yeah, it was just he held on. He held on long enough, and eventually he got rewarded for it.
Yeah, it was crazy. If you hit the ball in the fairway, you had a chance to score. Was the course set up? I know the USGA, they loved it. And then when it starts raining, et cetera. But a lot of people don't like to see players hitting the ball sideways. But again, it's about driving. That's a big deal to the USGA. Was the course in the long run, regardless of the weather, did they set it up the way you thought it would be?
Yeah, Oakmont's always infamous for having really thick rough, and things just took a turn. The weather really made a big difference, like you said, because we saw guys at 4 under after the first day. That's where Spaun was. There were a couple close behind him. I think the last 2 times at Oakmont, the winning score has been close to -6, -7, and so it definitely seemed like it was heading that direction. And then just slowly over time, everything went the other way. And look, these guys are so used to, the drivers are such weapons, and they're used to playing courses where if you're a little bit offline or you're just in the first cut of the rough, it's not that big a deal. You can still easily make par, and you may even give yourself a chance for birdie. At Oakmont, it's different where, you're dead. You're playing for bogey the minute you're in that thick rough. And a lot of times, maybe once in a blue moon, you can get a look at an actual approach shot, but most of the time you're just chipping out because that's the best you can do. And that's new for these guys. And, you look at it and go, well, maybe they should hit iron off the tee, but the course is long enough that if you're hitting irons off the tee, you're still going to have ridiculously long approach shots, and you're not going to get birdies there either. And you can just as easily hit your approach shot into the rough, right? So you may as well hit driver. I mean, you got to try it, but, as we saw, and as you pointed out, they're kind of all over the place, especially when the weather hits, and especially when the nerves hit.
Shane, with Scotty Scheffler and his putting woes this weekend, do you think that's just a product of Oakmont, or do you think that maybe he's, after this unbelievable, ridiculous stretch, that he's just kind of coming back down to earth a little bit?
Yeah, he's had the best putting year I think he's ever had, which is why he's winning so much. Scotty, when he's not putting well, is still good enough to finish top 5 in tournaments, and when he does putt even average, he wins tournaments. So, yeah, maybe he was due for a tough week. I think, it felt like his irons weren't on. So when I was watching, it felt like every birdie putt he had was like 40 feet or something like that. And inevitably, you're going to 3-putt some of those. But yeah, he wasn't hitting the 15-footers. He wasn't even hitting the 8-footers for birdie that normally he's putting in there. So I think like just sort of, regression to the mean a little bit, or once in a while you're going to have an off week. But I think with Scotty, it is the kind of thing where if you could have told him, the best score is going to be 1 under this week, can you go beat that? He would have said, yeah, absolutely. I think he'll probably in hindsight look at this and go, man, I should have won that. So I should have found a way to win that tournament.
Was there relief that a live golfer did not win the U.S. Open like a year ago with Bryson, who is maybe as popular as a golfer is in the world?
I just don't think people really care anymore.
Okay.
Brooks Koepka won it the first year. He won the PGA, so that kind of broke the seal a little bit. We knew a live golfer can win. And then Bryson won last year. So at this point, we know live golfers can win. I don't think anybody would have flipped, right? I don't think it would have been that big a deal. I just don't think that really entered into it.
Honestly, that's good. I texted him back and forth with a few people watching, and you had Hatton, and of course, was it Ortiz that had an amazing tournament with what he was doing? So McIntyre, you spent a lot of time with him. In fact, that's your story. Even though J.J. Spaun's the one that won the tournament, you were kind of watching him, and his reaction was great. Terrell Hatton's reaction was great. They were happy for him. This McIntyre guy, he is he's something else. He's really, really good, and sometimes under the radar.
Yeah, very much so. He's physically not very imposing. He's kind of short, a little bit chubby or whatever, has a baby face, but he really is a tough guy and a tough competitor. And I was kind of hanging around with the players coming in, and when he putted out on 18, he's 45 minutes to an hour ahead of the last group, the leaders, but he's at +1. And at the same time that he finished, you had Hatton about to make double bogey, you had Burns about to make double bogey. All of a sudden, it was like, this guy's going to win. It looked really good. Adam Scott dropped off. So it was basically at a certain point, you go, okay, McNamara is here. He's done. The only guy now that can beat him is J.J. Spaun, and we'll see what J.J. does on the last 2 holes. But my thought as a journalist was, this is what an interesting situation for McIntyre to be done, and then you have to sit there for a half an hour or more and watch what happens. what is that like? What are those feelings like? What do you do? He talked to the media a little bit. He wandered around a little bit, talked to his agent, but just the tension of that, where everything's in the balance. And truly, he was a coin flip at that point, whether Spaun would beat him or not. And, I just thought, God, imagine that feeling when you're just sitting there waiting.
Can you try to explain just how wet, nasty, muddy, miserable it was when those couple of different times when that just came blowing through?
Yeah, it's classic East Coast rain where it's, when it comes, it really comes. And it was heavy as can be. You felt like in the media tent, hearing it hit the canvas, you felt like you're being bombarded. So it was super heavy. It took them, I think it was like about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes where play was suspended while they're trying to dry the course off. Right when they get back out, it comes down again. Last thing the USGA wants is a Monday finish, right? So they're trying to push to finish any way possible as long as there's not standing water on the greens. But, you probably read it created situations where there were certain fairway shots which were full of water and you couldn't really take relief because it was everywhere, right? So Sam Burns ran into that. Kind of everybody had a little bit of that, but it was nasty. And, you can't forget, these guys have just fought this course for 4 days. Not only are the conditions awful, but they're about as tired as you can be. They've been getting beat up by this course for 72 holes. So quite a test. You don't cross the finish line as much as you kind of stumble across it at Oakmont.
It's just gorgeous. Of course, what was the 5.5 inch, the rough, and at times it almost was British Open like a links course at times. But I love the views, the green, the different colors, and it's just gorgeous. Paul, did you have another one?
Will this be Phil Mickelson's last U.S. Open?
Yeah, it's really tough to say. Here's the thing, his exemption's up, and that's kind of, he said it is highly likely it's my last one. But, that just means, he could qualify again. He could choose to qualify, and it's possible he won't. But he can also get an exemption. And, that's kind of up to the USGA, what they do. Gun to head, it would be a really hard pick. I would say probably not. I think probably one way or another he gets in another one somehow. But it's not guaranteed. And, I followed him on Friday in his last hole. It looked like he was going to make the cut. I think he was at, 3 over, and the cut was 7 over. And he ends up going +5 over his last few holes, and he ends up missing the cut. So I followed him, and I wrote a story because, it may be his last U.S. Open. Hard to guarantee that, but it definitely had the feeling of a sort of ending once it's there.
Rory fought back to make the cut and played well on Sunday, but Shane, he seems to be fried. And I know he's had this back and forth, and at times athletes have these whatever with the media. Where is he? Did the Masters, he had been working on that for a decade to get the Grand Slam. Where is he, in your opinion, mentally?
I think burned out is a great word for it. Yeah, I think he's kind of getting snippy with the media. I think he was annoyed by the driver scandal at the PGA. Now I put scandal in quotes because it was just
sure.
But just some strange decisions, like with the driver thing. Why not just come out and explain it to everybody? The story could have been over in 5 minutes, right? Same thing happened to Scotty. So they asked Scotty about it after, and he just gave a 2-second explanation. It was done. But he's making these strange decisions. He harbors a grudge against some of the media. It seems like. I think when you get to the bottom of it, and again, we're just seeing him for a little bit here, right? We're not seeing his daily life, his private life, or anything like that. But what it seems like to me is this guy got something he was working for forever, and the way he felt afterward was not what he expected. Right? I think that's not an uncommon human experience, right? You hear about it with Olympians all the time, win a gold medal, and they're supposed to be overjoyed, but then they go, well, what do I do now? Right? Like, what's going to drive me now? Where does the meaning come from? And I think there may be some of that because it's otherwise, I don't know how you explain the way he's behaved. The guy should be, on cloud 9. He should be kind of riding this wave. And instead, he doesn't look happy. He look kind of miserable to me.
Do you think that, does that separate what we saw from Nicklaus, Tiger, and maybe 2 or 3 others that when they won something like that, it was like shark in bloody waters. They couldn't wait to win the next one, where some, it does drain them a little bit.
I think so. I think this is evidence that Rory really put a lot on winning the career slam, winning another major, breaking that drought, where I would think if you asked Nicklaus or Tiger while they were playing, they probably didn't think about that stuff too much because what they had was this insatiable desire to win week after week after week, right? Like It's like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, when he won his 5th NBA championship, wasn't, oh, okay, now I've won 5 and I've accomplished. No, every single time the guy wanted to play, he wanted to kill and he wanted to win because there's that internal fire. I think Rory was so goal-oriented that when he hit the goal, some of that fire went out in a way it didn't for the guys you were talking about, Woods and Nicholas. And that's kind of the problem, I think, right now. He doesn't know what to do. So.
Yeah, it just seems like that, and he had to wait so long for that too, which is hard to imagine. Yeah. Did you see the comment from Marty Fish, the tennis pro, by any chance? About
I don't think so. No,
Garrett, do you have that? Did I send that to you? Here, I'm going to read it to you. 2014, Marty Fish. I was at a tennis tour, played a few mini tour golf events to pass the time. I got paired with a young American player out of L.A., and the dude shot the easiest 65 on PGA West Stadium. I said to myself at the time, I got to make sure I remember this dude's name. That kid was J.J. Spaun.
Unbelievable. I mean, it's just so cool, little stories like that. I mean, it's California kid, the way he talks, you can tell he's from California. He doesn't sound like a lot of other golfers. Very, very unassuming. I think people who didn't know Spaun would have expected that he would drop off the map after Thursday. He's cool. It's just a really cool story, and he's a cool guy. And it's just, look, I think a big part of this tournament was a little bit dull because of the way players were getting beat up. But, I mean, what fireworks in the last 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, it's just really a tremendous finish, I thought.
Thank you very much, Shane. Great stuff as always. Great story on the McIntyre part, the angle with him. Appreciate your time today.
It's always fun. Thank you so much, guys.
Shane Ryan with us, Golf Digest with us on 365 Sports. It was bloodshed, carnage, whatever you want to say. Then, of course, they rained and then came back and rained again. It was raining when Spaun made the putt to clinch the Open. It was a hard enough course. And I don't know how to describe it, 5.5-inch rough. Now, it's not Bermuda, which means you could literally not even find your ball. But it was some of the most brutal lies based. It's just kind of a luck of the draw where your ball falls in, and yet we saw some great shots from guys who had terrible lies in that rough, and they still just made it happen. All right, when we come back, just around the corner, Garrett, before we get to the Paul's top 5, I sent. Did you have the one I sent from Baseball UGA, Kendall Rogers, the baseball writer?
No, I could not find that one.
Okay. I want to bring this up. Craig and I discussed this on Friday. So there were a lot of responses on social media, on Twitter, about Texas Tech and adding one fantastic player after another in the portal. There were some reactions to that. Some of the reactions were completely negative. For example, one of them was this one here. I think we could all agree on two things. Women making money in sports is awesome and long overdue. 2, contacting players directly or not before their season ends is signing them to NIL deals before they enter the portal is wrong. Money isn't the issue. It's tampering. There were others that were complaining about Texas Tech. Here's a tweet from Kendall Rogers, a great baseball writer. Georgia continues to clean up in the portal. Landon Davidson slugger, Michael O'Shaughnessy finished for 2025 with a 367 average, 17 home runs, 70 runs batted in, 10 portal commits for Georgia. Not a peep anyone bitching about it. Don't be hypocritical when it comes to people building their rosters through the transfer portal, through because they have openings, because somebody wants to go to school there, or because they're getting paid. Don't be hypocritical about it. It happens across the country. All of a sudden, there's some schools that used to be able to get everybody, and I'm not saying that about Georgia baseball, and now people want to complain because transfer portal. Stop. Don't be that person. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC, Cadillac, the people you can count on for all of your automotive needs. Got a lot of great deals going on now over at Richard Carr, and you can take advantage of them right now. Their special summer savings events where it just depends on what you're looking to do. You're looking to get into a new vehicle, a pre-owned vehicle, looking to get just your tires changed out or your oil changed. Well, regardless of what you're looking to do, they are the people you can count on. And right now, They are celebrating red, white, and blue savings events. Every new or used car and truck is priced with special American-sized savings, which includes saving, nearly $9,000, $8,750 to be exact, on all 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models in stock. Qualified buyers again save $8,750 on all 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models in stock. Also save $750 on a new 2025 Buick Envista, which was named a 2024 Car and Driver's Editor's Choice. Those are a couple of options for you. If you're looking pre-owned during the red, white, and blue sales tag event, they have hundreds of cars priced to move for your upcoming summer travel. All of them have undergone a 172-point inspection, and 100% credit approval is always the goal. Locally owned, locally run, celebrating 26 years of business in Central Texas. Do business with a dealership that gives back to the local community. Deal with people you can count on, and take advantage of those great savings now at Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Hello, I'm back with an all-new Top 5 for you, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Check out flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports, and let's get into it. I returned from a lovely weekend, celebrating my second wedding anniversary, to find out that the Red Sox, my beloved Red Sox, have traded Raphael Devers to the San Francisco Giants for Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, Jose Bello, and FSU legend James Tibbs, as if they did that to try to make me feel better. It didn't make me feel better. It just deepened my theory that they're trying to reboot, albeit maybe inadvertently, the curse of the Bambino. So let me give you a parallel history lesson here. The recent Red Sox have been one of the best teams dynastically in baseball, most recently winning their fourth World Series in a decade and change in 2018. After 86 years of not winning the World Series due to the curse of Bambino, Babe Ruth, who was traded to the Yankees, and that started their super dynasty, and he was traded. Why? Because the owner, Harry Frazee, who people in Boston literally piss on his grave, traded him for a musical named No No Nanette so he could finance that. No No Nanette. Well,
this is not quite as nefarious as No Nanette, but since the Red Sox have been winning a lot more, their franchise has become super valuable. In fact, one of the top 3 most valuable organizations in Major League Baseball, allowing John Henry and the Red Sox ownership group, Fenway Sports, to invest in other things like Liverpool FC, a powerhouse in the Premier League. Well, they just offered their biggest contract in Liverpool history just this past week. And in the same week, offloaded their biggest Red Sox contract. So John Henry and crew are spending money for Liverpool FC. This means this is the no Nanette. That's step 1 here. Number 4, there are 2 bad GMs in a row. It's early on for Craig Breslow, but this felt very Luka trade-ish in that the Rafi Devers drama was because of bad communication on either end and could have really been worked out better, but it wasn't. And before him, Chaim Bloom made some really bad trades. Let's jump into the first one of those bad trades, shall we? Mookie Betts for Jeter Downs, Connor Wong, and Alex Verdugo. Connor Wong is the current Red Sox backup catcher, not hitting his weight right now, but one of the good trades that was made by Craig Breslow, the current GM, was bringing in Red Sox current starting catcher Cesar Narvaez, who has done great this year and probably will be an all-star behind Cal Raleigh at catcher. But Jeter Downs released straight up and downs. Also, you trade for a guy named after Derek Jeter on the Red Sox? That's how you start a curse, man. Also, they needed a shortstop. What position does Mookie play right now? Shortstop. They need a second baseman. He can do that. He's also the best right fielder you're ever going to see. It's ridiculous. Alex Verdugo, the only one who produced for them, and he's now a journeyman over the last couple years. They traded Alex Verdugo to the Yankees. To the Yankees. They never do that. That's how much they didn't want him anymore. Number 2, Chris Sale, their best starting pitcher, traded. Okay, maybe it's time, but the value they got back for him, shortstop and second baseman Vaughn Grissom, who, after an injury-plagued season last year, has not been able to break back into the minors. He is on the Woo Sox in Worcester, Mass. That's where he is, for a true ace and a guy who helped you win a World Series in Chris Sale. In fact, the most valuable part outside of Mookie Betts in the 2018 World Series team was Chris Sale and his bulldog mentality. He's a little bit eccentric, we'll call it that. But if you're going to trade a guy, you got to get value for him. And this, pure salary dump. Because Vaughn Grissom, are you kidding me? Vaughn Grissom? And no offense to any of these guys. I know you're working hard. I know you're trying to make it. But for God's sakes, Red Sox, get some value here. And number 1, the Raphael Devers drama. Okay, you go and sign Alex Bregman. Hey, trying to fight off the rebuild of the curse. You do give him opt-outs after every single year of the contract, including this one, meaning now that you've traded away $300 million, Scott Boras, his agent, will know that and most certainly opt out, causing you to have to go back to the negotiating board with Alex Bregman. That's step 1. Step 2, you never told Raphael Devers you were going to do it. So he thinks he's going to try to get better at third base defensively. He's not ever going to get better at third base defensively. That's the whole knock on this thing. So you just bring him in, and then maybe I'm like, oh, Alex is going to play second base. That's what he's going to do. And then now he's going to play third because he's one of the best defensive third basemen in baseball right now. So we'd like to be the full-time DH because Masataka Yoshida is out. So you're going to be the full-time DH. He begrudgingly accepts to do that, then becomes, right now, the best DH in baseball outside of Shohei Ohtani. He's the best in the American League for sure. So he, after a rough start, he gets his head right, just hit a home run against the Yankees to help in their sweep. But in the middle of all this, Tristan Casas, your first baseman, gets hurt. He's out for a very long time. So you go and ask Rafi to move to first base. Now, this is where it becomes Rafi's fault. He gets mad, gets in his feelings, says he's not moving to first base. The owner, John Henry, even came down to meet him. He's too mad at Craig Breslow and John Henry and Alex Cora and everybody else for asking him to move all of these positions. So Now it's a bridge too far. So you trade him off to the Giants. Buster Posey kind of fleeced you because Kyle Harrison up and down between the majors and the minors. Tons of potential. Kyle Hicks throws gas, but really he's at best a high leverage reliever. Jose Bello, kind of a lottery, ticket if it hits. And James Tibb, the only one of real value, was just drafted a year ago, so it may be a little while before he comes and plays for you in Boston. That adds up to a rebooting of the curse of the Bambino in the aggregate. Because again, none of these guys are Babe Ruth, and nobody's Babe Ruth. But if you take a really stud left-handed pitcher and two great hitters and run them together, what do you have? You got a Babe Ruth, don't you? That's what this is, the restarting of the curse of the Bambino, and I am descending into madness. Smokey, please read these polls before you have to put me in a straitjacket.
Yeah, you are dramatic.
I mean, it's true, though. Look, they have traded off that they lost Xander Bogaerts because they didn't want to.
Well, why do you think he's pretty good?
Him. Yeah, they they've traded Mookie Betts, Chris Sale, and now Raphael Devers for essentially
Devers was a bitch though,
pennies on the dollar. And look, that's fine. If he didn't want to be there, they didn't want him there. But at least get equal value. The guys they got are all big question marks, and this is how you become cursed again. This is how you go years and years and years. And it's kind of a Luka situation. They messed it up from the start because Rafi Devers used to be the most team-friendly guy ever. And then Craig Breslow and Alex Cora decided not to tell him about anything and work with him through this process. And here they are now.
You mean not playing third base and moving to the outfield or whatever?
Well, they wanted to move to DH.
Yeah.
And then if they just talked to him in the beginning when Christian Casas got hurt, I'm sure he would have learned to play first. But since they didn't, he decided to be a bad teammate.
He said he'll play anywhere.
Exactly. He's going to be Mr. Good Teammate again. It was a terrible, terrible decision.
Craig, he's trying to compare this to Luka being traded, but
it's not even close to the same thing. But that's all right.
But
it's not. I mean, like it is and it's not. But
there's some Mookie Betts being able to leave. That's Luka-ish.
No, that was just silly.
Yeah.
I mean, Luka's the most egregious one, but you had
there was no indication whatsoever that there was even an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, there was in terms of some of Tim McMahon's reporting, people, he's lazy, but nothing to say, they're going to trade him because who would have thought that? That's the dumbest thing in the world. And then on a Saturday night, like out of nowhere, like 11 p.m. or whatever it was, everybody woke up on Sunday with their phones. I get sort of where you're coming from, but I just think that was so completely out of nowhere.
I guess I compare it to the player and the GM have a personal issue, and that's all it really is.
Yeah.
Like it has nothing to do with anything else other than they have a personal issue. And instead of working through that like adults, there's other factors here at play. His gigantic contract, which now the Red Sox are completely out of because the Giants took it on, and
I did see David Ortiz basically.
I would also say Raphael Devers isn't like one of the. I mean, is he a top 5-10 player in the entire sport of baseball?
I would say he's a top 15 to 20 player, but he's not. He comparatively to Luka, no. Now Mookie was.
Yeah, no, he was.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Paul. Also, Andrew Valade, how do you see the Devers trade from the Red Sox to the Giants? Giants, half of the poll, almost 50%. Giants win it. Red Sox, hope.
Yeah.
Fair deal, 12%. Red Sox fans upset, 21%.
The Giants won this deal right now. I mean, they did. They're a good team. They're a good enough team. He's going to help them with a major hole. They have a Gold Glove third baseman at Matt Chapman. He can play DH. They haven't had a 30 home run hitter since Barry Bonds retired. He can probably do that.
I saw that. That's crazy.
In that ballpark. The Giants won this. All of the Red Sox things are hope. It's all, we hope Jordan Hicks can become a high leverage reliever. We hope Kyle Harrison can find it again. We hope James Tibbs turns into something. We hope this Jose Bello kid is more than just a throw in. That's all that it is. The Giants, especially in the next 3 to 4 years, will get a lot out of Raphael.
I'm surprised the Red Sox fans upset wasn't about the same as Giants won the trade.
Yeah.
All right. The other poll that Andrew put together, King Jiu-Jitsu. What impressed you the most about J.J. Spaun's U.S. Open victory? 41% the comeback after shooting 40 on the front nine with 4 bogeys in the first 5 holes, and just like he was 5-6 strokes back. And then the clutch 64-foot putt to win it, clinch it, and then a resiliency with the rain, and held off the leaderboard that he did with Hovland and others that were hanging around with him. Adam Scott has won a couple of major championships at the Masters. Thank you very much, Andrew, with the poll results. Every day at the end of the show, we look back at them. Thank you to everybody who's been a part of the show, how you watch us, digest us, and support us. We appreciate that. Also, that means our sponsors, too. For Craig and for Paul, Garrett Rost and Andrew Valade, Emery Winter working on 365 Sports tonight, 10:30 tonight on the CW. I'm David Smoak. Good night.